Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board Trustees meeting for Tuesday, January 9th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First off, just want to say thank you to our law enforcement here in our community. Today's National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, so thank you to all of our law enforcement that we have here in our township especially. With that, Clerk Robertson, could you call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Trustee Hugo is absent. Trustee Fike?
Here.
Trustee Raritan?
Here.
Trustee White?
Here.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Here.
Of course, I'm here, myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a moment to read a brief a note from Trustee Hugo. She asked that I let everybody know. She said, I would like to take a moment to publicly apologize for my absence at the board meetings and planning commission meetings in December. Unfortunately, I have been dealing with some health issues and have been unable to work. I have a few more tests and may end up having a third back surgery since December 1st. From now through February 20th, I will be unable to attend meetings in person. However, I will be watching the meetings online. Thank you for your time and your continued support. So we wish Sarah the best in her recovery and that she gets through this with less pain than what she's been encountering. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda this time. Mr. Fike makes that motion, supported by Mr. White.
Motion by Fike, supported by White for the agenda.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we will go to our public hearing. The board will hold a public hearing this evening.
Comments, Mr. Supervisor?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. Thank you, Clerk Robertson. Is there anybody who wishes to make public comment tonight before we get into the public hearing? We're going to have a public hearing with regard to Orchard Haven and right after this. So if your comments are regarding Orchard Haven, feel free to bring them up at that time. But if you have anything else that you'd like to bring before the Township Board, we'd be glad to have you speak. Okay, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment. And at this time, we're going to move into our public hearing, and the board will hold a public hearing for the creation of the Orchard Haven Road Improvement Project or Special Assessment District. Attorney Laddie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight's the night that the board's going to consider the creation of a special assessment district for the repaving of the roads in the Orchard Haven subdivision. The process for a special assessment is set by state statute, and we follow this same process with all of the assessment district requests that we get, and we've gotten a lot lately. Unfortunately, the condition of the roads, particularly local roads, they age. They, in some cases, don't hold up as well as others, and all the time when we have people come to us with petitions to have those roads repaved, we begin this process. And tonight we have Mr. Hill from the Road Commission who can talk to you about some of the specifics about the projects. For Grand Blanc Township's role, our obligation really is to bring you here tonight. We send out letters, we publish in the paper, we bring you in. We've gotten estimates from the Road Commission as to how much these costs might be for the project. And we want to also hear your input on the project. The questions that Mr. Hill can answer regarding the physical or the actual procedural processes for the road, we'll let him answer. And we will try to answer the procedural parts. And for our role, really, we serve as essentially the bank. So we're gonna basically create, if we go ahead and create this district, we're gonna give the okay to the Genesee County Road Commission to oversee the project. They're going to bid the project, they're going to choose the contractors, and we're going to pay them. And we're going to pay them with money that we borrow, probably through a bond issue, which does have some administrative costs to it. And then, here's the tough part for you, we're going to get that money back from you or future property owners over, in this case, a span of up to 15 years, so that we pay off the bonds and we pay off the road commission. And so tonight, the board's gonna consider whether or not they should create the district. And as I said, we already had a petition that indicates that more than 50% of you want to move ahead with it, or maybe feel you have to move ahead with it, given the condition of the roads. We currently have in our resolution a total estimated cost of $3,716,999.28. I think you're going to hear tonight discussion about a proposed construction estimate of $3,660,000. The reason those two amounts are different is because there's two reasons. First of all, we want to make sure that we've got a little bit of buffer in case the project does have some overruns. Secondly, there's going to be expenses that are involved in borrowing the money at the state of Michigan. We're going to have to pay bond counsel to make representations to the state of Michigan and to banks that the interest that any lender receives for the bonds is tax-free. Unfortunately, they're very expensive. In fact, we're estimating that it's going to be approximately $45,000 to have bond counsel make that certification. And so that, in part, makes up the reason for our slightly higher estimate. I think we're about $57,000 higher than the construction estimate. So that explains that. As I mentioned before, if we go ahead with the project, there'll be a second public hearing. That will be where we actually try to get a better handle on the costs. And some of the things that can affect the costs are revised estimates from the road commission, but also the county has a plan that allows the township to participate in a contribution. And Dennis, is that capped at $150,000?
$150,000 a year.
So if our project is eligible and if the road commission determines that they'll participate in the contribution of up to 10% or maximum $150,000, the township board has established that they will participate in that amount as well. And so that could mean that if we do qualify, that we could reduce this amount by approximately $300,000, which would help you directly.
Attorney Laddie?
Yep.
Just to mention, it is a first come, first serve fund that the county has, so it isn't guaranteed even if, we'll put up the money if they still have money in the pot, right?
Correct. And as Supervisor mentioned, it's first come, first serve. The good news is it's January. The bad news is there's projects going on all over the county. So our goal is to have these things processed as quickly as we can so that we can get you in the queue for consideration at the road commission. Tonight, it's also important, if you're not in favor of the project, you can briefly stand up and say, I'm not in favor of it. It either I don't want it done, or it costs too much, or both, or whatever reason. The reason for that is that it preserves your right to go ahead to the Michigan Tax Tribunal in the event that we move ahead with this project. So you can go to them and say, hey, this is not proportional to the benefit I'm getting on my property. And the tax tribunal will set aside time and listen to your case and decide whether or not you're entitled to any relief. And you can protest at this hearing. You can do it in writing to Clerk Robertson's office by email, or you can do it at the next hearing as well. And that just, again, preserves your right to appeal. And so unless I've left out anything, I think now's the time for, do you want to hear from Mr. Hill first?
I think so, that'd be helpful, but also, we have some comment forms that Ms. Roberts has, that if anybody believes they will want to speak during the comment portion here, just raise your hand and Ms. Roberts will hand you one of the forms. Basically, just allows us to document your name and address, and if there's follow-up information we need to get back with you on, it gives your contact information, or a place for you to add your contact information. So if you want one of those forms, she's coming around, just let her know you'd like one. And we have some pens over here on the table. Feel free to get up and fill one out over there if you'd like.
And Mr. Chair, you accept comments from people in favor, but also
Yes,
oppose the project.
absolutely.
You want to try to keep the comments to under
3 minutes or less, please. You're absolutely right.
Mr.
Clerk
Supervisor?
Robertson?
I have a number of emails that I received in opposition to the project. Would you like me to read the names into the record now, or do you wish to wait, or would you like to do?
Let's take the comments that are here first, and then we'll get to those
Okay, that's fine.
at the end of the meeting.
Very good.
What's the board's pleasure? Would we like to hear from Mr. Hill first? Might be more informational for may answer a lot of the questions that residents may have. So,
It makes sense.
Mr. Hill, would you mind coming to the podium and providing some of your information? Mr. Hill is, well, I'll let him introduce himself with the Road Commission, the County Road Commission.
My name is Richard Hill. I'm the design manager of the Genesee County Road Commission. The proposed construction for this project is basically two phases, two different types of repairs. The older section of Orchard Haven, which includes Brookview up to Westview around to Sampson, and Haven Road, which originally constructed of asphalt over what we call soil cement. And soil cement is exactly what you think it is. It's cement that mixed in with soil.
You can pull that microphone up just a little bit, Mr. Hill. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, we're live streaming it too, so we just want the public to hear.
Okay. In that section, we're proposing, since that pavement has reached its useful life, it is no longer given any structural support that can be added to. So what we propose to do is remove all that in its entirety and replace that with 5 inches of new asphalt over 7 inches of new limestone base. The other section, which consists of Lake Forest, Tanglewood, and Meadowwood, were built with what we call full depth asphalt, which is 9 inches of thick asphalt, which is a much better section. So that section, we can get by with just let me check my notes, make sure I'm saying the correct thing. We're going to what we call crush and shake that. Where you pound it, turn it into a gravel substance, and then resurface that with 5 more inches of asphalt. In both situations, we'll be adding new limestone shoulders. As stated before, the estimated construction cost is $3.66 million.
Mr. Hill, so the difference in the two processes, is it because the one does have some base, whereas the other one just has mud underneath it, basically?
Well, soil cement is not
it's dirt,
not mud, but it's an inferior product to full
Right.
asphalt, and it's also an older section.
Right.
So that's why there's two different phases. But both fixes will result in the same design life for the project, which we estimate to be a 20-year design life before such a project will have to come back and be done again. Again, that's not saying that the pavement won't crack. This is Michigan. Pavement always cracks in the winter. But there won't be any structural repairs needed for approximately 20 years.
Here, well,
Should I answer that? Or
what do you mean by structural? We'll get into all the questions, but that, and also, how old is the road currently, do you think?
Unfortunately, I did not bring that part of my
It's got to be
notes. I believe it's
pretty old,
in the range of 60 years.
right?
But a structural repair, as I said, the older section with the soil cement has lost its structural value, which means there's no value for putting more asphalt on top of that because it's just going to
Right, just saying.
get you crack right through it. It's not going to do anything. The full depth asphalt section and everything we're going to do in repair is a structural brings up the structural rating to it can accommodate all legal loads on this pavement, and the heaviest vehicles that would drive on this pavement would be your garbage trucks, your school buses, your construction trucks that come in to fix the people's houses and things like that. That too. So any legal loads should be designed to handle for that 20-year design life. I guess the one thing I should point out right away is we're talking about this being a 2025 construction project, because even though it's January 2024, it takes between 6 and 8 months to design a project like this. And then, as it's been pointed out, the money we set aside to do subdivisions has already been claimed, because we're doing a major one in Grand Blanc Township this year as well.
Is there a good possibility we would qualify for the 10% or the 20% match?
That's good. I can't answer that. I'm
Right.
not the one who
Well,
answers that question, but
yeah.
it's a very good possibility. The construction itself will take on about 4 months to do, which doesn't mean there's going to be 4 months the road's torn up in front of your house. but there'll be 4 months of actual construction on the project. What they do is they'll work at the farthest end of the subdivision and work their way down towards Perry Road. So at no time will construction traffic be drive on brand-new pavement. Other than that, I think,
Okay. So, one of the things that Cook Road, everybody in the township knows how bad that is, and that is where we're going to rebuild that between, the county's going to rebuild it between Embry and Holly Road. They're basically the same base that you're mentioning, that there is no base. It's basically concrete mix that was mixed in with the dirt that was there.
Yep.
And then rolled out. And the problem is there's no drainage or anything, and that's why more asphalt isn't going to help.
like I said, in the 1950s and 1960s, there was a lot of these soil cement roads were built, because at that time, somebody thought that was a good idea. And with the traffic at that time, maybe it was. But over 60 years of wear and tear, we've determined that we're not going to do that anymore. I will say that the Michigan Department of Transportation is experimenting with new types of soil cement with different additives that would make it even better. But until they perfect that, we're not going to use them in Genesee County.
Okay, the board members have any questions, Mr. Hill, before we open it up?
I do. You all use that Paiser rating, which maybe people don't know what it is, but it's kind of a rating of how bad the road is. What is the Paiser rating for this subdivision?
Again, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I think it's about 2 currently for the older section, and maybe a 3 or a 4 for the newer section.
Out of a possible,
A possible 10. Paiser rating is a scale 1 to 10, and it's like any other scale, 1 to 10. 10 is good, 1 is bad. Brand new construction starts out at a 10. During that first year of construction, it drops down to 9 pretty much automatically. Once it gets down to below a 7, we can't do any minor patching or chip seal, things like that, because that doesn't add any structural strength. Then you start looking at new things. So when you're down to a 4, crushing and shaping and resurfacing is adequate and the right fix to do. But if you're in the 2, 3 range, that's when you need to completely replace it, because it's lost its structural strength.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Mr. Hill? Okay, Mr. Hill, thank you very much, and we will now go to public comment. Mr. Laddie, anything additionally?
Just one comment. So folks, if you're going to speak in opposition to the project and you did sign the petition initially to move ahead with it, will you please let us know that? Because we're going to try to keep track of those who signed and those who didn't sign.
And if you have your form that you may have filled out, if you came in late, we have forms over on the table here. We just ask that you complete that and bring it up here to Dr. Reardon at the end, and that way we can know who we're asking to have come forward. Yep, you can just bring it to Mr. Reardon. We'll get him. Okay, for our first resident that we entertain to speak is Miss Roberta McGrath. Is Miss Roberta McGrath? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. I did not sign the petition, and I just want to let it be known I am not against the project. I'm just unknowledgeable about it. And the main reason I'm here is because I want to request a recount of the parcels. I have 2 parcels, and because of things that happened in my life, I wasn't able to get down until August of last year to request a combination of my parcels. Okay. And to this date, I still haven't got any notification that the parcels have been combined. So that's all I'm here for, is just to put out there that I'm requesting a recount of parcels. So hopefully when it happens, my parcels will be combined, and that way I won't have to pay 2, obviously.
Okay. We have your contact information.
We do, and we have you noticed in the file, and so I know that assessing in that process is in the works right now, and
Okay.
they haven't made a final determination, but we've got your request noted.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rogers Ryder. Good evening.
A couple of quick questions. One question would be the utilities. Have we consulted with consumers? Because I think there's some under road surface natural gas lines through there. So is that going to affect our costs? Is that going to be somehow directed toward the consumer or to the taxpayer, or is that going to be a typical project with consumers? I'm not sure, but also, one other thing I was wondering is when the cost to the taxpayer, the resident, when we would notice that, how soon prior to the project start or after the project?
We'll give any other questions before? Get the answers?
Those are pretty much just those two.
Okay, we'll go through those. then.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Mr. Hill, what about utilities under the road? You can feel free to stay there if you'd like. Well, I don't know, can you pick it up? Go? I'm sorry, yeah. All right, thank you. We can, or put a chair over there for him, maybe, Greg, so he doesn't have to keep walking back, back
Much
and
worse
forth.
a month ago, so believe me. As for utility relocations or adjustments, those are not part of the cost of the project. Those are borne by the utility companies directly. Any required relocations or adjustments on utilities.
So the utility picks up that cost?
Yes.
Okay. And, Mr. Laddie, the other question was,
Timing of payment.
right,
So if it's a 2025 project, property owners will not, I think we may be able to issue, if you're going to pay in full, we probably will be able to issue that invoice in 2025. If you're not going to pay in full and you want to avail yourself of the 15-year payment opportunity, that wouldn't start until February of 2026.
okay. Next, Robert Vargo on behalf of Christopher Vargo.
I'm talking on behalf of my son. He's actually working right now.
Sure.
His big concern is he works for a school system as a custodian. He makes less than $30,000 a year, and this is going to increase his property tax by 25% plus. I do understand that the roads need to be done. They are extremely bad. What I've observed myself, especially on Meadowwood and Brookview, is that's a cut through from Hill Road to Perry, and it's used by a lot of non-residents, both, the residential people or, people living somewhere else, and by businesses, and they pull their trucks through there. If the residents are fully responsible for the road, then, I don't know, my opinion is block it off right at the end of Meadowview. They can't go through. The Meadowwood people would have to go to Hill Road. Everybody else would have to go up. And otherwise, it doesn't make much sense to me to allow the continued truck traffic. And there were some heavy trucks going through there. And I know when I visited my son, I'd follow some of them out that turned on at Hill Road and went up to Perry Road. And if it's going to be used as a public road that way, then I think the township has a lot more responsibility, at least through, for the main thoroughfare going through the subdivision.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to note as well that the township doesn't have any ownership or jurisdiction on streets, roads, bridges, signage, stoplights, any of those type of things. The township's involvement with this process is basically, we are able to, we actually collect taxes, right, for everybody. Everybody from the schools to the county, you name it. And so the county can't put basically a tax on your bill to say you're going to pay for your own road. Basically, we bond it out, and we're the bill collectors for everybody from the schools to you name it, anybody who gets a part of your property tax. So in terms of determining what happens with the road, it's between residents and the road commission. In this case, we're the bonding, or basically the people you go to loan the money to do it, because we have the ability to collect it. In terms of blocking off roads, what have you, I'm not sure what process the county or state would go through in authorizing that, but I know it's not one that we have anything to do with. So I would encourage you to take that up with the road commission if that's something that, the neighborhood would want to do. Okay, next.
You know, I know that blocking off roads, that would probably have to go through the committee right in the subdivision first. But I know in several spots in Oakland County that they have done exactly that.
Right.
Between Dixie Highway and
Yeah.
M59.
I'm not saying it can't be done. In fact, I've lived in communities where I looked at doing it, but it would be beyond our control here at the township level. But I'd encourage you to talk to Mr. Hill or give the road commission a call or send an email and we'll forward it to them. Okay? With that, Mr. Ken Emig? Imai, I'm sorry. Good evening.
Good evening. I just wanted to point out to my fellow residents, I've lived in this subdivision for 30-some years. The roads have gotten progressively worse as time has gone on, and they're probably at the worst they've ever been right now. So it's only going to get more expensive the longer we wait, and I think we should move forward with this project and get it done. Just bite the bullet, get it done. As to the questions about thoroughfare, I think maybe the road commission handles signage. They could possibly put up some signage. One thing I do know we need is more speed limit signs, 25 miles per hour, and maybe a few more stop signs in certain areas. And maybe one at each entrance that says, not a thoroughfare. Simple signage sometimes helps. So,
Okay.
thank you for your time.
Your comments will be noted as you speak, and we'll communicate some of those concerns to the road commission and see if, and our police as well. I mean, if they're stopped, if it's lacking stop signs where it needs to, then we can take a look at that as well. Okay, let's see. Denitra Landon. Good evening. Hi, good evening.
Yes, let's just say go blue first, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Champions, Lions.
Yes, I should have started out the meeting, yeah.
Okay, that took up half my 3 minutes. I am on the board of the subdivision Orchard Haven, and I voted for it, but I just had some questions, because some of us are not able to attend, some are out of town, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things that our residents are concerned about is that the cost. A lot of our residents, as the gentleman that just spoke, have been in the subdivision for over 30 years.
Right.
A lot of our residents are older now, and they're on a fixed income. And this additional money, not being able to pay up front to pay it all off, the additional money added to their taxes is somewhat of a, just so if there could be any information of places that could really help them, something to really help them, because a lot of them don't have kids, they don't have families, it's just them. Another thing I wanted to know about it's about the taxes, the increase in the taxes, not the taxes for the money for the road, but our regular taxes.
Right.
How is that going to work? Are we still going to be increased on the regular taxes as well as the taxes for the road?
Okay.
And my next question is to the gentleman who does the roads.
Mr. Hill,
Yeah,
yes.
Mr. Hill. You said that as far as structural, you explained what that was. My question is, what is the lifespan of the repair of what you're doing? And if that lifespan does not, for whatever reason, make it to the predicted lifespan, how does that play into us being still responsible to pay for that? And if you are going to be able to come out and repair it without adding an additional cost to us because it didn't last the lifespan that it was supposed to? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good questions. So is there a warranty on the road, Mr. Hill? I'm not sure we have too many road projects. That question isn't asked, to be honest with you. Your road, like we said, probably 60 years old, I think, is what probably the age of the house is. I'm not sure how old oldest houses are in the neighborhood, but probably whatever that is, I don't know if it was paved at all since then. But, you know, certainly the substructure was never replaced, and, you know, when you pave something over top of dirt, essentially, with no drainage, just putting more asphalt on. Mr. Hill, anything with regard to lifespan?
The anticipated lifespan of the road, as I said before, was 20-year design life. That means within 20 years, you shouldn't have to come back and do any structural repairs like this. Now, as far as warranties, we don't ask the contractor to warranty their work, because if we did so, they would add that to the cost of getting the warranty to the cost of the project. And we've determined that it is not in the county's or the residents' best interest to do that. As far as if it doesn't reach its 20-year design life and something happens that is attributed to either a design error or a construction error that we didn't catch during construction, then we will pay it. We will repair it at county cost, not to the residents.
So, Mr. Hill, one of the things that, you know, the road commission has experts like you that that design these roads to certain standards that are required by the state or that they suggest. I guess communities don't have to follow it, but we do. But they're designed to certain standards, and you have people that are out there checking with whoever contracted to do the work to make sure that they're meeting those standards, right?
Standards for subdivision roads are county standards, they're not state standards. They're
Okay.
standards that the road commission has adopted. And yes, they're designed to those standards, and part of my job is make sure that the design does not match those standards. And during construction, we have inspectors out there during the entire time of the construction to make sure that it is constructed to the plans, or if during construction, our construction manager finds out a way that can save some costs but still meet the standards of the project, then it will be done that way. But in any case, we don't pay the contractor's final costs until we check to make sure that they've done the job to our specification. Once we do that, we sign off the project, the contractor is released from this contract, his contract is over, and as I said before, if we determine there is either a design error or a construction error that we didn't catch, afterwards, we will come back and we will repair it on our cost.
Yeah. I haven't seen that happen too much, but sure.
Not necessarily the design, but the material that's used to make the asphalt. I've worked in construction before in the city of Detroit, and we paved the roads. So I was in the lab. There's a formula for, depending on how much is being paid for that, and there's different types of formulas for the asphalt. Some formulas last longer than others. There's cheap formulas, there's good formulas, just like anything else in the world. But if we're paying this amount of money, is there anyone that's going to be on site or in that lab to make sure that they're making a good formula that will not crack or disintegrate or cause potholes within the next 12 months?
Absolutely. The plant where the asphalt was made has plant inspectors as well. And if there's a design error or a construction error, which using the wrong asphalt would be a construction error, then we will replace it. But the asphalt mix used is, you design an asphalt based on the amount of commercial traffic you anticipate having on this road. And yes, we know that this road is used as a thoroughfare, so yes, it'll be designed to withstand any legal loaded vehicle. And we're not a law enforcement agency, so we can't stop vehicles from coming through. But if you see a vehicle coming through your subdivision and you believe it to be in excess of a legal load, call these gentlemen back here, and they'll do something about it.
Okay.
As far as blocking the road from one area to another, I can't say definitely no. But the problem with that is that would leave the whole subdivision only one access point to a major road, Perry Road. And if there's a problem at the Perry Road intersection, fire, something, an accident, something like that, and blocks people off from exit, we try to avoid that. So I'm going to say it's highly unlikely that we would go through with blocking off the road in that manner.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hill. There's standards even for gravel that when we put them on gravel roads. In terms of assistance to people that cannot afford or don't have the income, David?
I think, as I recall, and fellow board members may, or the board may need to help me with this, I think that there may be potentially an opportunity, is it through a CDBG?
I think they have to qualify though first, right?
If you qualify with certain income and maybe asset limitations, then you might be able to get some relief. But beyond that, I'm not aware of any statewide program or local programs that allow people to get help with these. We know they're expensive. We know it's a big burden. That's one of the reasons why we try to stretch out the payment life from 10 years to 15. But other than possibly a CDBG opportunity, I'm not aware of any.
And we just changed it from 10 to 15 years in the past couple of years, so,
And that's helped a lot.
yeah. Was there another question that I didn't answer that? The tax value of the home. So, one of the things that we have seen with streets that are very poorly, I think we've seen as much, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Limita, but probably as much as a 30% drop in home values. So will this cause your taxes to rise? The property taxes are based on a formula, not necessarily, we don't come up with that formula, but state law has that dictated, and certain factors with inflation and what the sales, of similar homes in your neighborhood are and what have you. So on the one hand, you do want your property value to go up, right? Nobody wants to live in a home that's diminishing in value. I mean, we're doing everything here at the township to try and build the value of living in Grand Blanc Township. And does that cause your home value to increase? I hope Grand Blanc continues to be a sought-after place to live, right? Having streets that are deteriorating cause homes to lose value. So will improving your streets cause your house to increase in value? We kind of hope so, right? I mean, we don't look at it like, hey, man, it's going to make my taxes go up. But guess what? Eventually, probably everybody's going to sell their house at some point, and you'd rather end up making more money on it than less. Mr. Limina?
Will not raise the taxable value, like our assessors aren't going to go up and raise the taxable value of a home because the road has been done. But over the course of time, it's if the sales prices of your homes go up, then a thing called economic condition factors that are used to develop what the homes are worth. But then again, you still, because your assessed value goes up, doesn't mean your taxable value went up. Your house is worth more, but you know yourself, if you've lived there for a lot of years and you look on your tax bill, you see your assessed value, you see your taxable value, they're different. Now, if you just purchased it uncapped, and those numbers are going to be the same, but you won't see a big impact in your taxes because your road has been improved. But Mr. Supervisor is correct in saying that the home values will tend to rise across the neighborhood when there are sales of homes, and eventually it'll move up the value of your home. But your taxable value would lag way behind while you're in the home. It doesn't automatically go up because the value has gone up based on that.
Right. Very good points, Mr. Limina. Okay, Herman and Ellen Eady, Mr. and Mrs. Eady. Good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen, for taking very good care of us and our police force for the great job that they do.
Thank you.
And I just have we tried to get our property surveyed, and our corner posts were gone. And the surveyor, he went 5 or 6 houses down on each side, and they were gone too from when the ditches were put in originally. So will those corner posts for the property be replaced? Is that part of this project?
Right. Good question, Mr. Hill. So in terms of property lines, how do you determine that in the circumstance where those stakes are not present, Mr. Hill?
It is anticipated that the entire project will happen within the road right-of-way itself, so there will be no case that we go into people's private property to do anything. In that case, we don't need to check where your property corners are. If property corners aren't there, we're not going to replace them as part of the project.
I have a question. Does that also go with drainage? Like if for some reason you guys have to go through and rip up like a culvert or something like that, would that be replaced by you guys, or would the house owner have to fit that cost?
No, any driveway culverts replaced as part of this project would be part of the project, not individual.
And I ask anybody who wants to, we need to get a name for the record too, if you want to speak, no problem. Okay, so let's see here. The last one I gave you. No.
Herman and Ellen Eddy.
Okay, I've got another one too. Okay, go ahead. You're speaking, tenant is Beth and Fred Buchanan?
Yeah, them all, we own that property too.
Okay.
The distance between the road and where our driveway is, would that be covered in this road project or no? Can we get him his own mic?
Is this okay for?
Yes, that works.
Okay.
Fine.
The question was the between the edge of the road and your driveway?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what exactly.
Well, there's that culvert that runs underneath there.
Right.
Is any of that going to be covered or no?
If covered by, you mean,
When they do the
paved over?
roads, will that be taken care of?
If the culvert has to be replaced because we're reditching, then that'll be part of the project. And in that case, the pavement over the culvert, whether it's gravel, asphalt, or concrete, will be placed in kind, same as currently exists.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eady. Ms. Marcy Garcia? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, and Joe Garcia.
I'm speaking for her,
Okay.
believe it or not. This is questions for Mr. Hill. He mentioned the limestone shoulders. What's going to be the width of those between the grass and the road? Yeah, pretty much, I think everybody has no shoulder at all.
It just goes from road down
Goes road
into
to
ditch.
grass, yeah.
Right, I'm familiar with it.
Right now, we're proposing 3-foot wide shoulders. One thing we can do is put grass over the shoulders once they're there, so that you'll have shoulder to drive on, but you'll still maintain your grass lawn.
Okay. And then, so that's going to be level with the road then?
Yes.
It's not going to be where, some roads it drops off, and then when you're running, you hit that if you're not paying attention.
If we do put sod over the top of the limestone, that'll be about 2 inches thick. So you'll have like 2 inches of sod, and then you'll have 6 inches of 4 inches of shoulder material.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. Very good question. Does anybody else have, I know I don't have any more forms, but was there anybody who didn't get a form that wanted to speak yet? Yes.
Can I just ask, are they gonna, I'm
Step forward.
comparing the roads to,
Here, come on up to the microphone if you could, Miss Edie. I'm sorry. We have people watching the meeting from home as well, and they can't hear you if you don't come up to the microphone.
So just looking at like the Williamsburg Farm subdivision where they redid those roads and then they had the curb come up. I know we came in a little late, but I'm wondering, will the same thing happen in our sub when, I guess this is a question for Mr. Hill, but will there be that cement curb coming up?
A cement curb because you have the ditch and then
Closing curb and gutter, we're not doing it.
we're not doing a curb and gutter. It's just,
Okay.
the ditches are going to
What is
remain.
your name?
Miss,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Ellen Edie.
she's on the card already.
Okay, I just didn't identify the name with the face. Okay, very good, thank you.
No, this project, as estimated and as approved by the board, does not include curb and gutter.
Okay. Any other comments or concerns?
I know you said you wouldn't have to bother any of my residents' property, but when y'all leave for the night,
So the question is, just for everybody who's listening and couldn't hear it, is that when you leave when the construction crew leaves for the evening, are they going to park their equipment on people's property, or are we during the project going to use people's yards for the project?
No, they hit, all construction equipment must be limited within the road right-of-way. They cannot block anyone's driveway. They cannot park on private property without your permission. And again, if you believe somebody is blocking your driveway, call these gentlemen back here. And they'll let us know, and we'll make sure that's taken care of.
Right. Okay. The road commission's been very responsive when we've had concerns. Okay, come on up if you would. Give us your name and address if you could.
My name's Amanda McNeese. My address is 6421 Haven Drive, Grand Blanc, Michigan.
Sure.
I just want to say I'm really excited for my kids to be able to ride their bikes, rollerblade, do all the fun things in the neighborhood that they should be able to do, and to walk and not fall into a pothole.
Sure. Okay, thank you. We know there's lots of benefits, and we know it's at a great cost, to residents. We wish that there was more that we could do to help, but we did start paying 10% towards the project, with the county paying 10% through our efforts in working with the county. We're allocated a certain amount of money from the county road commission. Those taxes actually come from vehicle, the tabs that you pay for your license, as well as gas taxes. That's what makes up the road funding. That funding in townships goes to the road commission. Cities, they have their own funding mechanism that comes from the same source but goes directly to them. The county in our township, most of the mainline roads are in pretty good shape, with the exception of Cook Road, right? And that's going to get fixed this year. We've had to wait several years and if we touched it, we'd invalidate the funding. But the bottom line is that Mr. Limita and myself and several others worked with the road commission to get some relief for the subdivision roads. But we know that more needs to be done, and we are in ongoing discussions on how we can get that, but it's not going to be immediate. But we appreciate you caring about your neighborhood, and it benefits everybody in the township to have our township subdivision streets in good shape, because if my neighborhood looks horrible, guess what? It doesn't help. When people say, yeah, was that Scott's house in Grand Blanc Township, and that township, those roads are horrible. But so it benefits all of us, and I just want to say thanks for your concern and for moving forward. If I see two more people with their hands up, I'd just ask if you would come up to the microphone and give us your name and address so that we can make note of your comment. We'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Susan Sofka. I live on 6112 Mariemont Circle. And my question isn't about the future, it's about the present right now. And since Mr. Hill is here, maybe we can find out about this. The potholes are horrible right now.
Right.
And all of our money is going to be done in car repairs if we can't get them filled up real good
Right.
before winter.
Sure.
So I was wondering what the plan is. We haven't seen anybody in months, it seems.
There is if you go online to the Genesee County Road Commission, whether it's on your phone or on your computer at home, there is a place on their website to report any kind of pothole or patching. And there's also a phone number you can call, and they are very responsive to coming out and patching those. The problem that we run into is during the colder months, the asphalt plants shut down. And so, we get calls that, hey, they were out here and they threw some stuff in there and it all washed out. Well, that's because it's cold patch. During the winter months, I know we had complaints about heavy trucks driving down the road. Well, when the frost is in the ground and heavy trucks, it does a lot worse damage. So they don't allow the asphalt to actually get out there, the trucks and what have you. The bottom line is they can patch it, but it's not going to help a whole lot during the colder months. But if you call the road commission or report it on their website, somebody will be out. And if they don't, call me. My cell number's on the website for Grand Blanc Township, and I'll follow up. Okay.
Great, I'm glad to know that, because right
Yes.
now it's Dodge 'em.
Yep.
They are all over, it's really bad.
Yep. So we have.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Ma'am, would you restate your name again? I didn't get it.
Susan Sofka,
S-O?
FKA.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you, ma'am.
And I have cards out there in the counter, but we have our DPW department represented here well with the director and assistant director, and I'm sure that, and Mr. Hill's here, and I'm sure they'll take back that information and let them know that you need some patching done in that area. I think there's a gentleman, go ahead, sir, and then there's somebody behind you too, but go
I
ahead.
just have a question for Mr. Hill.
Your name again?
Anything
And Imai?
ditches.
Imai, okay.
My front yard. They're steep, and it's a hell of a thing for me to do when I'm cutting the grass. I think I must have the worst ditches in the whole subdivision. I don't know. So,
Well, if you gave your address to the supervisor, and if you can forward that to me, we'll take a look at those, that in particular. But as far as the steepness of the existing ditch, I'm not sure how much we can do about it. We'll take a look at it during design. We're going to do a survey of the whole area, see what we can do. But until I know further, I can't say exactly what I'm going to do.
I'm on a corner lot, so I got two corner ditches that come together, and then one right in front of my house. They're just deep.
Mm-hmm.
As the older I get, the harder it gets to cut.
Right, yeah, I understand, and believe me, I understand what you're talking about. But until we get further into the design of the project, we haven't started at all. So if
We have it noted.
you send
Mr. Hill.
that address to me, I'll send it on to
Clerk Robertson has
to our design consultant, make sure they took a look at that, and maybe somebody will be contact with you during the year that we're designing the project to make sure what's going on.
Okay. If you could just restate your name.
I'm Roger Ryder, 6395 Tanglewood. A little bit on the help with the grants. Is there anybody assigned to this project to continue looking for, if there's any state, I don't know, can we get state grant money to help on this? Because we're all state taxpayers too. It'd be nice if,
The only grants that we've found is if it's a low to moderate income neighborhood. Yeah, and the federal guidelines actually tell us which neighborhood. There's only a few that qualify in our township for that.
And
And
that's-
unfortunately, or maybe fortunate,
Okay.
your neighborhood isn't in that area.
okay, just had to ask, thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Have them step forward, Scott.
Yeah, if you can come up to the mic, but let's come up to the microphone one more time, I'm sorry.
6309 Brookview Drive. Just before the meeting is over, was wondering if you could clarify for everyone watching and here, because we had questions. When people signed the petition, they wanted to know that if they changed their mind, when is the cutoff point when they can remove their name? So if you could make that clear.
Tonight would be the time to do it, if you want to take your name off the petition.
Not the next meeting.
Correct.
There's a young man here. Come on up, if you can tell us your name and address as well.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Lahr. I live at 6511 Brookview Drive. I shared a similar concern to this gentleman about my steep ditches. I just wanted it noted to have a look at my property as well.
Okay. You have the address. And one of the things about ditching that I didn't realize till I got into this position is, those ditches play an important role because water is probably one of the biggest enemies of the asphalt, that if we don't drain that water from underneath the road, you're going to see crumbling roads. And so a lot of times, some of the major roads in our township that have been in the worst shape is because the water, we couldn't get it away from the road. Baldwin Road was a major issue with that. If you can come forward and give us your,
My name is Will McNeese, 6421 Haven Drive.
McNeese?
Yes.
How do you spell that?
McNeice.
ICE. And first name?
Will.
Will.
So my biggest thing is, somebody already said it, speeding through our subdivision. So with crumbling roads is bad. Brand new roads, it's gonna be worse. What is the township police department gonna do about enforcing people slowing down through our neighborhood? I got 3 kids, so.
well, I'm pleased to report, I think, pleased, that the statistics for our police in the past, what is it, Chief Rennie, about the last couple of months or last 14 months of traffic enforcement have gone up, what percentage? About 200%. So if one of your neighbors or you get pulled over somewhere in Grand Blanc Township, it's because we've had concerns, with COVID. There's been a lot of crazy driving. Fatalities are up statewide. But there are some things we can do if you notice people speeding through there. We have a 24/7 dispatcher in Grand Blanc, probably one of the only in Genesee County that have that. But you can call our phone number for dispatch anytime and let them know that there's cars speeding through here. What's helpful is if you can identify, if you see the car and it's a regular time frame that they're racing through there, you let them know, hey, it's at 5 o'clock every day. That way, because we don't have the resource to have somebody sit out there all day and night, but if you can identify a time frame where there's an issue, I would encourage you to let our police know.
It's not just civilian traffic, it's UPS, it's
Right.
FedEx.
Yeah.
it's in
Well,
general.
and let that be known with our police when you call in as well. And they can have somebody out there looking for that type of thing. But there's some other things we can do to document what the speed is out there too. If you can come to the microphone, I'm sorry.
Marcy Garcia, the one that was on the original paper, my husband came up.
I saw it.
Yes, and what was said about the stop signs? I live on Westview and Brookview. We have there is bus stop there as well, and that's where a lot of people actually have noticed through their windows, cars speeding there. Could there be stop signs put up at that area right there?
What I would encourage you to do is to, who should they?
Who's in charge of that?
List Limita.
They should reach out to the road commission and have that conversation. Obviously, if you got a problem, and Chief Rennie's here, he's hearing all the comments of this evening, I'm sure that they will take special attention, take a look at traffic enforcement over there. But if it's the addition of new stop signs or speed limit signs or whatever, that's really going to come from the road commission.
Because there's enough distance between Perry Road up to that stop sign that it wouldn't be, because there's one, the next one is up at Meadowwood and Tanglewood, I think.
We don't have to wait till the project's being designed for signs. They can take a look at that anytime. But
Okay.
For all of you who feel that, the old squeaky wheel, gets the grease, feel free to reach out to the road commission, and you can contact them, go to their website, see their contact page, shoot it to them, let them know your concerns, put it together and sign it and send it over to people. The road commission will be responsive. They've been very responsive when we've gotten involved and asked for some assistance in whether it's traffic enforcement, stop signs, traffic lights, whatever. So I would just encourage all of you to let them know and what specifically intersections that you want the signs in.
So in terms of signage, what have you, ditches, whatever, I would contact directly the road commission. Enforcement with trucks driving through, heavy trucks or people speeding, I would call our dispatch. But the better the description, like I said, we can't have somebody sitting out there 24/7. But if you tell us that, hey, at 3 o'clock every day, believe me, our police will note that and something will be done. But they're very responsive as well. Okay. Right. So if you see a speed detector sign in your neighborhood, we're taking.
You got a gentleman over here on the left.
There's somebody else that had their hand up. Did I see? Oh, this gentleman. If you could come forward, sir, and provide your name and address for the record. Good evening.
Good evening. Harrell Walker, 6161 Meadowwood Lane. My question is, the stretch of road you repaired from Perry Road through Brookview, over 100 feet, will it be done right in this new project? It was holy before, and you made a roller coaster out of it. And it was a big stretch of road, but my impression was, once you've done it, we know what to look for when you redo the whole subdivision. But it wasn't done right.
It's a roller coaster, meaning the road, I don't quite understand, but the road is like wavy kind of thing? Is that what you're saying, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And it wasn't that way, and it just became that way, or?
It is that way. It was holy before. They said at the last meeting that was the worst entryway into the division other than Hill Road. So you took away the holes and gave us a,
Oh, so they patched it somehow and made it,
yes,
well,
yes, sir.
okay, well, I think the plan is to fix it all the same and make sure that it's all to the standards that the county has for the roads. So, also, Ms. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Jill Tucker. I live at 6250 Westview Drive in the subdivision. I have a question. At the first meeting, we were told that they're going to replace it with like what's there. And mine's gravel at the end. And I had asked if we could pay individually to get our end of the driveway blacktop, like the road. And I'm wondering if that's still an option.
Is that the section between, say, the culvert and the road, or
From the end of our pavement to the road.
does your pavement come to an end near the culvert, or no?
There's a little bit of ways, but we're,
Okay.
we're willing to pay for that.
Sure, okay,
It can be done.
all right. Mr. Hill?
Okay, the project will be designed to place any driveway, the same material that's there now. During construction, you should talk to our construction department, and they'll put you in touch with the contractor. And you might have to get a separate deal with the contractor while you're out there. It's a little bit extra work for a construction department because he has to make sure the contractor doesn't make a mistake and charge you and us at the same time.
Imagine that.
But so I'm saying just to be
So who would I contact when they're,
during construction, you'll see us out there in our white trucks with our symbol on it. I mean, if you want, you've got your address.
Yeah, we will have, the road commission will assign a project manager to the project.
Right.
And Mr. Boggs in our office is in the blue sweater over there. We will know who that name is, and we'll be sharing it with your neighborhood. So there was bound to be some issue that comes up that somebody has a question about or concern. And the project manager from the road commission will be the contact person, whether it's the township contacting them or individual residents. But we'll make sure there's a point person, I guess. I don't know, Mr. Boggs, what's the best way to get the project manager's name out to our residents?
Well, it'll be Jared or Todd, but
Right.
once it goes out to bid, we'll have a pre-con, and once we have
Yeah.
real official,
Yeah,
it's a contract and a start date, then we can,
If you don't get the name, call me, and we'll get it for you, or email me, okay? Okay.
For my case, during design of the project, I can't change individual driveway types because, to be fair to everybody, you just replace what you had but during construction, that can be a separate thing you can do.
Right.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, Clerk Robertson.
Before we conclude the public hearing, shall I read the emails into the record?
I think if you can summarize their concerns, I don't know how lengthy they are.
I'll be very brief.
Okay.
Jennifer Mosby of 6362 Brookview Drive opposes and let me just say that the following individuals that I'm reading did not sign the petition.
Okay.
So they're just making their objections known. Todd Bolus of 6018 Meadowwood opposes the project. David and Michelle Wettenhall of Westview Drive oppose the project. Pat Logan of Brookview Drive opposes the project. Tom McLaren of Bernhard Circle opposes the project. And Michael Horn of the Horn Joint Trust and 6099 Meadowwood Drive opposes the project. Now, we did receive one email from a Jade Martinez Elmore. And this individual, 6321 Brookview Drive, did sign the proposal, and I've noted that with Mr. Laddie.
Okay.
And that is all that I have right now.
Very good. This young lady over here hasn't had an opportunity yet, but Road Commission, I forgot, sorry.
Hi, my name's Sue Hogan. I'm actually with the Genesee County Drain Office.
Sorry.
And I had sent a letter in. We don't necessarily object to the project, but we were sent a dollar amount, and we are government exempt property. So I sent that in yesterday.
Okay, I'm sure Mr. Laddie will be examining that, Ms. Hogan.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
Yes.
In case we have to take it to the tax
Your
tribunal.
name again is?
Suzanne Hogan. I'm the Deputy Drain Commissioner for the
Yes,
drain.
you are. I recognize the name now.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't recognize you at first.
No, that's fine.
And what is your address here in this case?
I'm not in the subdivision, but the drain office owns 3 vacant parcels at the northern entrance where the LaSalle drain exists. And that would be a burden on that drainage district to pay
For that
for
paving.
the subdivision, yeah. All right.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Ms. Hogan. Okay, yes, Mr. Eady.
Herman Eady, 6315 Westview Drive.
Thank you.
Is the project going to be a go, and when are we going to start? March 1st this year?
Well, I think Mr. Hill had mentioned it's going to take some time to design it. I think we were looking at this being a 2025 project, right? So in the spring of 2025 is probably the soonest, which I would think that's doable, 2025. And it,
Right, basically what's going to happen is, your board is going to vote either through a proceed or not, and then if they vote to proceed, then my board will vote to proceed. And they will never, my board never would disagree. If one says yes, they'll do it, then we'll do it. Then we have to check our budget to see how much money I have available for hiring a design consultant this year. And we do have quite a bit of money involved in project designs at this time, so I can't tell you exactly when we'll start design, but we will do it in such a way that the project we'll take bids on the project, not this winter, but next winter, next December or January, and that's time when you get very good prices when you take bids in the winter, because contractors are looking to get a project for the next year. And this is actually a quite large project. Not the largest project Grand Blanc Township's done, because they're doing a bigger one this year, but quite a large project. So we advertise the project statewide. We take bids from all over the state. We open them publicly at our boardroom. We check the qualifications of the low bidder, and then we assign the project to the qualified low bid. The contract, if we take bids in the winter, the project will most likely begin as early as possible in the spring, probably May.
Interest rate?
We don't charge interest.
yeah. Well, we'll cover that in just a moment, okay, on how that bonding works. I'm sorry? Yes, one more question here I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Tom Cerny, 6243 Meadowwood. We've been residents of Orchard Haven and Grand Blanc for 36 years. I'm so excited that this is now moving forward. We have needed this for ever so long. We truly do need it, and I'm just excited, and I'm very hopeful. I thank everyone for their service, and also our neighbors. We've got a lot of wonderful neighbors there.
Good.
We want to keep that neighborhood good.
Sounds like you have a great neighborhood. That's awesome. That raises value too, just having a great neighborhood, right? Okay. Hate to ask this, but any other questions? Okay, seeing no further comments or questions, we're going to close the public comment and bring it back here to the board.
Hearing is closed at 7:09 PM, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay. With that, any final comments, Mr. Laddie, in terms of interest rate?
Sure. In terms of interest rate, unfortunately, the answer at this point in time is we don't know. What we do, though, is when we hire bond counsel, they go and they will probably bundle up this amount of money with another bond offering or several bond offerings, and the point of that is to try to get the lowest interest rate for the residents. And The way that they accomplish that, one of the things we do get for that $45,000 of certification is that they're good at that certification will guarantee to the lenders that their interest is tax-free. So what that means is we usually get a better rate than a retail rate. So whatever, and don't hold me to this, but let's say hypothetically, the best retail rate at that point in time is 5%. I think that we're gonna be able to get 4% or better. So I don't know what the exact numbers are, and I don't know I don't know, we'll have to time the offering of the bond issue. And I don't know what the state of the economy will be at that point in time, but know this, you'll get a better rate than you'd get if you walked into a bank. And Mr. Chair, just for the board's purposes, we did not have any significant change in the percentage of folks that are interested in terms of the front footage. And so you are still reasonably at the 54% in favor mark.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, we have a lot of good folks sitting here, and I just wonder if the board would comply with me if we have later in our agenda under new business item A, the board will consider resolution 24-1 to establish the Orchard Haven subdivision road improvement project. If we could move that up to vote on that at this point, as opposed to waiting, because we're going to have some lengthy discussion, I think, on our next agenda items. So if I got consensus among the board, and I think I do, we're going to address that this time. Do we need a motion to move that agenda item?
If you don't mind, yes.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we move item A under new business to the first item of business following the public hearing, item 5.
This is the first reading.
No.
Well, this is the
Final
vote?
This is a resolution.
No, we're altering the
24-1.
agenda.
The vote is on altering the agenda to move item under new business A to be able to entertain that motion now.
Former 8A is now item number 6, and then.
Correct.
Supervisor Bennett makes the motion.
Right.
Trustee
Reardon's
Reardon seconds. Okay. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Yes. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Okay, so at this time, the board will consider resolution 24-1 to establish the Orchard Haven Subdivision Road Improvement Special Assessment District as petitioned by the residents. So, Mr. Laddie, anything to add?
No, sir.
So everybody has heard the comments, the signatures. Remind us again, Mr. Laddie, of where we stand with the percentage.
54%.
So 54% of the residents have petitioned us, asking us to move forward.
Yeah, it's actually a front frontage of the road.
54% of the frontage. The owners have petitioned us, which we're compelled, at least I am, to listen to majority. And unless anybody else has any concerns or thoughts, somebody care to make that motion? Dr. Reardon makes the motion.
Reardon makes the motion.
Supported by Mr. Fike.
Supported by Mr. Fike. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Okay, so we're going to move forward on the project. And, please bring your concerns forward, continue to. I mean, we want to make sure that the project addresses things that are of concern, so don't hesitate to, send your email or what have you, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. So if you folks want to stick around for the rest of our board meeting, you're more than welcome to. But we'll take a few minutes to allow you to leave as well.
On the full, well, so I think we're going to be able to lower that amount.
That Bentonville meeting, you can watch them on YouTube or watch it from home if you want.
Welcome.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for joining us this evening. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Your meetings tend to go long.
I know. Okay, at this time,
Pull the door behind him.
we're going to go ahead and continue with our meeting at this time.
Hey, Chief. Pull the door closed.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay.
Just pull. Give it a pull.
Just
Pull it.
Just pull. There you go.
It might have been fixed closed. Okay, so we'll go ahead and resume the meeting. And at this time, I will seek a motion to approve the consent agenda. Dr. Reardon makes that motion. Mr. White supports.
Consent agenda?
Correct.
Motion by Raridan, supported by Fike. Okay, Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thanks. Number 7, under old business, strategic plan, full review discussion. Mr. Lemata?
In the interest of time, since you're going to have a lengthy meeting, obviously, my agenda memo just talked about the board's commitment as a full review of the strategic plan every 6 months. I did include our recap from September. If you recall, last year, July, we pushed it back to do the full review, and you guys actually did a workshop to roll through it. I included that the notes so that we have them, as well as the strategic plan from its inception. I think it still identifies when we did it in September. The community connectiveness was about branding and improving the parks and recreation facilities. The community vitality with code enforcement, which continues to move forward. Tech Village and the DDA, which continues to move forward. Pension and OPEB funding. The Point North Business District, the high quality housing is one that we kept it on there, but a big part of that is the business licensing combined with code enforcement. The business licensing, as you know, has been discussed about being part of our conversion to BSNA with the cloud-based version of that, and we have the business licensing module as part of that. So that one we haven't made a lot of progress on, but it is that should be rolling out very, very soon. Our township beautification efforts continue strong, and they are included in your 2024 budget. The infrastructure IT upgrade, you just heard a major upgrade with the Director of Information Services, Nathan Loosevelt. The DPW facility and fire station you're well aware of, it's budgeted for. We continue to move forward. In the township campus plan, we need to devote some more time to as we talk about what we want to do with our overall campus. We've added that other property on there. But obviously, we continue to move forward on this. We we, as a group, said that we would review this at least every 6 months to see if there was anything that we needed to add. Has there been any changes, either external or internal factors, that would force us to add or subtract a goal or alter one of the goals? Again, we did review it in September. It hasn't been that long since we looked at it. I think we have a pretty solid understanding. It was included in the 2024 approved budget to accomplish these and continue to work on them. But this is the opportunity for the board to, if we need better focus on one or more of these items, we need shifting priorities. We can talk about it now. We can add it to another agenda, whatever the board's pleasure is. But I think you guys are all making significant progress on these items. Some obviously stronger than others, but this would be the opportunity for the board to provide staff any increased direction on one or more of the items of your strategic goals.
Okay. I think we have been making great progress on the strategic plan. It's kept us focused. And I think, we've made little changes along the way and added things. So I'm good with where we're at with the plan and that it's being carried out at this point. Anybody have any thoughts on the items? I think we'll continue on with where we're at then, Mr. Lemata.
So we'll put another schedule together. We'll continue to do what we did throughout the last couple of years, where every 2 weeks we'll be providing some update on one of the strategic plan items as we move forward throughout the year. This is our 2021 through 2024 strategic plan. Obviously, election year, so kick off again in January of 2025 with a complete, again, review and new set of goals and wherever the board wishes to go at that time for the next 4 years.
Okay. Thank you very much. Under old business, board compensation discussion. This is a discussion we've had for, I don't know, when this board first sat down, we said we were going to put a policy in place that basically said that we were going to review the compensation for the future board every November, December timeframe before the upcoming election. And so we've been discussing at length the various topics surrounding that. Several points that I think we've taken into consideration. That one of the things, even with our township staff and our board, is that we've always tried to be within the 90th percentile of the pay scale for similar municipalities or municipalities that have similar job responsibilities, whether it's for staff or board. Also that we had discussed possible provision is brought up anyways to the board to add in some kind of factor to keep pace with inflation. We all know that, I think the last time we made any change to compensation before this board was probably like 20 years. And rather than only looking at every 20 years, we said we want to look at it. And if there's some type of suggestion that we put in place COLA, we said we wanted to consider that as well. We also reviewed changes in the workload for various positions. We talked about, the election changes have brought upon quite a few changes, even to require physical changes to the office space to handle all the new requirements mandated by state election law and even additional staffing. We've also looked at the treasurer's office in terms of the daily responsibilities, and that PFM was actually implemented several years ago to take care of the investments. And at the time, we really weren't sure how that would work out, and so we probably didn't make any changes at that time. But PFM appears to be doing a great job. The reporting is very apt, and the people there are all professionals. So we looked at those responsibilities being delegated to a paid position with them, or with them taking on that responsibility. And so we've also reviewed compensation comparisons, and I'm not sure, I didn't ask for copies of that here, but I know that Mr. Lemata provided it to me. I was going to bring copies for the board, but We did take a look at other municipalities that have similar board responsibilities. And we looked at that in the past when we were reviewing our own salaries at the beginning of this term. But given that, for example, we looked at two particular townships that are similar to us. One is Delta, is it, Mr. Lemata?
Delta and Delhi.
Were the two townships that actually are similar to us and also similar in terms of the board responsibilities. One of the things that Mr. Lemata actually sent out to everybody in the board packet, what I proposed, and it's just a starting point. I don't know if everybody has a copy of that or in their notes. But what I did in terms of the clerk and the supervisor position is kept things the same in terms, and I want to reiterate this, and we've reiterated this at every meeting, that this is no reflection on any individual in these positions or the position who occupies it. We're looking at what's going to happen next term, and none of us know if we'll be sitting in these seats next term. But the supervisor and the clerk position, I'm suggesting leaving those the same. The trustees, we took into consideration the COLA, and so I believe I added 3% to that. We can look at that in just a minute. And then for the treasurer position, what I did is I looked at these other two townships that what their pay scale was. And Mr. Lehman, I don't know if you have that up.
I'm trying to pull it up right now, but I'm having trouble accessing my L drive, so I'm
going to have it in just a minute here, but I can tell you what it was. It was $25,000 and $18,000 for the treasurer, and we said that we wanted to be within. Here it is. So the Delhi Charter Township, actually the clerk is at $74,000, $538, so that's the clerk position. Treasurer is at $25,800. Supervisor, let's see, $25,000. In Delta Township, the clerk is at $87,400 and the treasurer is at $18,000. So what I proposed was 90%, which what was that figure? Somebody have their form up? I don't want to lose my place on this, but
I don't see this.
in the packet, you have it right here in your packet. Clerk Robertson. Suggest what I was suggesting.
Forgive me, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. My apologies.
No problem. What's that?
What the proposed is 16A.
16.8 for trustees was
13.7.
okay. There was a typo or an error in the information in the packet in that I think we gave the wages for 2003.
Corrected it in the most recent upload. So if we have that, it showed the.
Okay, all right. So the supervisor position in 2003 was like 59 and change, I believe. In 2021, which is the start of our term, we made the salary for supervisor 35.5, and I'm proposing keeping that the same in my proposal. But again, this is a starting point. Clerk, we started out in 2003 at 54.6, and in 2021 it was 59.972, and I'm proposing that we keep that the same. The 2003 pay for the treasurer was 54.644, and the 2021 pay was 59.972, and I'm proposing taking that to 16.8 based on the lowered responsibilities. And then trustees, in 2003 it was 4,968, In 2021, it was $13,257, and I'm suggesting bumping that up to $13,700, which would be 3%, I believe, COLA. So that's the starting point that I'm suggesting, and I'm willing to, we need to have discussion on it and get everyone's thoughts. Mr. Kelmer.
I'll talk about the treasurer's position, because that's the only thing I know anything about.
Yeah, if you can speak up to the microphone so everybody can hear you, though.
Is that okay?
Yes, much better.
How many hours a week do you figure the treasurer should work? Because I think that's really important. If you're expecting a 40-hour work week on a less than minimum wage salary, that's, I don't think you can do that.
I don't quite think there's 40 hours worth of work for the treasurer at this point. We talked a bit about the responsibilities of what's happening. Basically, we're looking at the deputy clerk at this point doing majority of the actual tax filing and payments. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The treasurer doing the deputy treasurer doing the majority of the tax collection and filings, and payments and what have you. We also discussed bringing in somebody, a professional, to be on our staff to take on some of those responsibilities as well, so that we're not subject to changes with the elections, because our biggest fear is that we have an election, in this next November, and we have a treasurer elected and the deputy decides to depart. We're kind of sunk unless we've elected somebody who's very familiar with how all of those tax collections and payments are performed. If they don't have that training, we're going to be scrambling, and there's penalties involved with those things not happening. So we discussed at length at the board here of hiring somebody to be on our staff to actually fulfill a lot of those functions, and I'm not sure where we're at with, I know Mr. Lehman is working on a job description. We talked about doing the same thing in the clerk's office, having somebody on our staff that's familiar with the elections, so that, right now, the clerk's office, we're grateful we have people in there that know what they're doing, but at any given time, that could change, and we could be up a creek without a paddle, so to speak. So the bottom line is, we discussed this, that we need to have somebody on staff that knows how to do a lot of things the deputy treasurer does at this point. So in terms of how many hours do I expect, in reality, the clerk, the treasurer, and the supervisor all have statutory responsibilities. In terms of daily, work obligations, those change by virtue of, what we have going on. And so in terms of the treasurer position, really right now, we have PFM doing the investing, whereas in the past we had treasurers that were actually buying and selling CDs on a daily basis, which no longer exists. And I think that pretty much occupied majority of the time of previous treasurers. Really at this point, the treasurer oversees what PFM is doing, and maybe needed to sign occasional checks. Bank deposits can be made by staff. So, I know those currently, but as far as amount of time that it takes to do that, I think, really, and I'm open for suggestions, but that's, my starting point is that if we're having staff do a majority of the obligations, and basically the statutory responsibility of the treasurer is just to oversee to make sure that stuff's being done, then I really don't see a whole lot of day-to-day work that needs to be done, unless I'm seeing things wrong. But I think that those are the discussions we've had, and we asked everybody to give input on what they saw with their positions and what we've experienced. So again, this is a starting point, and we're not, we're just saying this is where we think things should be, or I am anyways. But if we don't want to make any changes to it, then we can do that as well.
Scott.
Anybody have any thoughts? Yes, Mr. Kilmer.
Yeah. Again, back to, okay, you've got the board, the trustees, and not very far from where the treasurer is.
Right.
You don't expect them to work 40-hour weeks or whatever. What do we expect? Nobody's ever really defined that.
Well, we spent a meeting talking about each position's responsibilities. And we went through trustees, we went through clerk. The clerk's office gave an extensive presentation. Ms. Henry was here on what the jobs were entailed there. I spoke about the 11 boards that I serve on. We did cover each of the different positions and what they entail, as far as daily responsibilities. But in terms of, the trustees don't have statutory requirements. The supervisor, the clerk, and the treasurer do. But in terms of daily operations for the treasurer's position, they pretty much have been taken over by PFM doing the investing. Other than that, personal property tax collection and making the bank deposit. And really, the personal property tax is a matter of mailing out letters and going about it that way. So in terms of daily responsibilities, you tell me what the daily responsibilities are that you see that we're missing. So in terms of, hours per week, I don't know that you can put in, people want to say, well, this is part-time or this is full-time. And Mr. Limata, unfortunately, wasn't employed here for a year. My responsibilities changed greatly to the point where I did have to work full-time, making sure that all the bases were covered. Anybody who's sitting up here in a chair has a responsibility of making sure their job is done, regardless of whether you put in 60 hours a week or 10. You still have that responsibility. In terms of board packets, if the board pack is 50 pages long, our board's going to spend a little bit more time at home going through that. But in terms of, daily workload, I think we pretty much, don't expect the trustees to have daily, workload. If we were a small township and guess what, we all were working the front desk, then I guess we'd be looking at how many hours would each of us be working. But we aren't that type of township. We're a policy board, except for the 3 officers that have, statutory responsibilities. So, any thoughts? Mr. Fike?
Yeah, I see that the trustees, remember, it's not us, it's whoever is going to be put into these positions by the voters in November, are receiving or would receive a 3% cost of living increase. Is that correct?
That's what I'm suggesting, at least. I mean, if that's what we want to go with.
Well, if the trustees are getting it, then the supervisor and the clerk should also get it. Why should they not receive that 3%? I realize for the trustees it's like $500, but I mean, y'all should be getting that too, to be fair.
Okay, that's consideration as well.
As far as the treasurer's salary, that's been determined by comparing other townships, and that's kind of what they pay, given the responsibilities
If
of...
you look at 90% of that $18,000 level, and they have similar responsibilities, that's where that 16 came from.
Okay.
90% of that. But this is a starting point for the discussion. I mean, we've been discussing it for quite a while, and it's like, you know what, let's put a number to it and have a honest discussion of where we see things at. I mean, we've been talking about it for a couple of months now, and it's like, we need to move on from this topic. So I don't know where people stand on this, if they're good with it, if they see changes we need to make, or,
Are we ready to take a vote, or is that for another day?
I don't know, you tell me. Dr. Reardon?
So the 90%, I mean, if that's where you're going, I think should be at least on the mean of the two.
Okay.
At least.
Which would be?
Which would be 90% of roughly 22,000. So that would put it closer to 20,000 or 21,000. And my other reasoning on that is if this is the direction that we're going, then I would actually like to see a little bigger layer between the trustees and an executive officer. I mean, that's my personal belief that there should be.
Between which two positions?
Between the trustees and any executive officer, but in this case, the trustee and the treasurer, I think, as an executive officer, I mean, you're probably only talking about 5,000, but I still think there should be a bigger gap because there is a little more responsibility, I mean, because as a treasurer. I mean,
I would strongly agree with that, too.
Okay.
So what are you saying then, Jude? How much?
Well, can you tell me what one was 25,000,
The other one was like 18.
18?
Right.
It comes out to 19,350, but personally,
Let's make it 20.
20, I would say at least that, right?
Okay.
And then if you something to think about, and obviously, I don't know if I'm going to be on the next board, I don't know if I'm running, I don't know anything, but maybe we should consider putting in, so this doesn't happen again with this
Successive boards.
huge, right, this 20-year, 25, 30-year difference. If we just put in a policy that the township board gets a cost of living, just do it yearly, and that way it's 3% or whatever, but it's not going to be a huge one like the last time, and everybody would get the same 3.
I mean, each board would have to vote on that, obviously. It wouldn't be an automatic thing, but, it would be highly suggested that each board do that.
Right.
Yeah, we could do that.
So could we put a proposal that we can vote on right now that would increase the supervisor and the clerk by the amounts listed plus the cost of living, and that the treasurer would go up to $20,000, and that the trustees would get the amount that's listed, 13,700.
Dr. Rudick?
Okay, but part of this is that I want to make sure that if we do this with the treasurer, that we bring on the professional staff. I mean, to me, that is, you can't do one without the other.
Right. Mr. Lehman, how are we coming along on, I know you were working on a job description for that position, or I think maybe not, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been predicated on conversations with the deputy treasurer. We've had the exact same conversations with the deputy clerk. In fact, we do have a proposed agreement for the election specialist position that we were going to ask you to go into a closed session this evening to review, with the idea that you still name your deputies as a treasurer and a clerk, statutorily required to name your deputy. The board sets compensation for it. What we've been discussing at length, and especially it's an election year, and quite frankly, the deputy clerk raised some concerns in an election year, like they commit, but they only have a 4-year commitment. I'm sure the deputy treasurer feels much the same way. If we don't know who's going to be sitting in your 7 seats come November 20th of this year, because elections happen. For those positions, so that when they sign on, they're signing on to hopefully a 4-year position, and election happens and they don't have that continuity. The deputy clerk has raised the concern and asked about the election specialist. We've done this before, where we created that election specialist position back in 2016 before the election, and so we would do the same thing. If we can do the same thing in the treasurer's department. One of the things that the current deputy treasurer has this institutional knowledge that nobody else has the ability in the organization to do. I've been a long proponent of that the board should consider making those positions staff positions. Now, whether whoever sits in that seat chooses to make that person their deputy, that would be up to them. But from a succession and continuity standpoint, it would make sense for that to be a township employee. Now, in my personal opinion, if I came into the office, I would certainly ask that person to be my deputy, but they're under no requirement. They could bring anybody in as their deputy, but you would have that continuity of a full-time employee that's a township employee, instead of serving at the pleasure of the clerk or the treasurer, they would be a township employee. And it provides them the, at least a guarantee of some continuity, that they're not going to, basically lose their positions. And especially we put a lot on those deputies. We ask them to continue to pick up the additional trainings and to, make sure that they get educated, that they know all the laws, that they make sure that we're current. And really the only guarantee they have is they serve at the pleasure of the treasurer and the clerk. So I've always been a proponent of it. I think we should do it. I think we should move it forward. What we've always done with the current deputy treasurer is let us know, because we want to have somebody in place, about a year. We think that it would take approximately 9 months to a year to get somebody ramped up in that position. The last conversation I had with her, she's thinking that it would probably be some point in 2025 potentially, but there's no confirmed date of what her chosen retirement would be. But I think it behooves us to be prepared for that eventual day when she chooses to retire. If it's going to be in the spring of 2025 or the summer of 2025, I think that we should have somebody in place in that position. At least that could go through a couple of tax cycles. You want to go through winter taxes, you want to go through summer taxes, because there's a lot to learn. And I'm sure Treasurer Kilmer's, he gets that as well, is that it's a tremendous amount to learn about the tax collection process. I mean, you bring it in, there's very specific timelines you have to follow for disbursements. Once it comes in, you got 2 weeks or 15 days that you have to get it out to the other county taxing agencies. It's a lot to know. It's a lot to learn. I would be prepared to fill that position anytime that we know for sure that the deputy treasurer has a date in mind, and we're 9 months out. I think we would have that position filled.
Should we look at doing it even prior to knowing that? I mean,
we can anytime that you want to move that forward. That's entirely possible.
I think sooner would be better. I mean, it might take them longer than 9 months to learn it too.
We pretty much, and Nancy and I have had some deep discussions about that. But everybody pretty much agrees with that, is that to put somebody in there, you have to put them in there and train them, and it's going to be probably at least a year or 9 months, but.
That's why I'm saying the sooner the better, So I would urge us to move forward on finding somebody for that, so that we aren't, finding ourselves lacking in that area. So, I don't know, Dr. Reardon?
Yeah, so, number one, this doesn't go into effect this term.
No.
So that's off the table.
Right.
Which it should be, which I don't think we could anyway. No. But, so when the treasurer was talking about his specific duties,
right.
I'm wondering, does the executive committee or the executive officer still meet like every Tuesday?
No.
Or, no?
One of the complaints in the past boards were that, if our treasurer, clerk, and supervisor are meeting, then we're not really involving the board in those discussions. And so that only took place for a while in the last board, and we stopped it. So.
Okay, so as far as hours and.
Yeah, there aren't really any hours.
So the treasurer could, for instance, come in 1 day a week for 4 hours. I mean, I have
right.
no idea, but it could be.
Check their email from home even.
And perform the duties that way.
Right, absolutely.
Does that sound?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's feasible.
Yeah.
Okay.
The, in terms of appointing deputies, so in the future that the clerk and the treasurer are going to be able to continue to appoint their deputy. However, the board sets the compensation. And if, the person that's on our staff is doing the majority of the work, the deputy that's appointed, if it isn't that person that we have on our staff, the workload's gonna be minimal, so is the pay. That's gonna be commensurate, I would guess, but the board will be in charge of setting that pay for whoever they appoint as deputy. And so if we have somebody who trains under our current deputy in the treasurer's office and they assume the responsibilities, and let's say our current deputy ends up retiring, the next treasurer could appoint them as their deputy, or they could have somebody else appointed. But that other person, if they appoint somebody else, we get to set their pay, and it's not necessarily they're not gonna have a whole lot of responsibilities, but that's kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but they still get to appoint their deputies. Dr. Rita?
Okay, so is that something that we have to address prior to the election? The
Pay?
deputy
No.
pay?
The next board will do that when they appoint their deputy.
In November.
Correct.
So are we prepared to move forward with my proposal?
As a question.
Is this a trend? Because I remember looking at the salary a couple years ago, I don't have it in front of me because we don't have it today, that most places, most townships had the clerk and the treasurer making, if not exactly the same, pretty close. Is this a trend in the state of essentially reducing treasurer responsibilities and treasurer pay and sort of splitting the clerk and treasurer as like on two tracks? Because I get that Delhi and Delta Township did that, but that was the exception to all the lists of salaries we saw back 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say, Trustee White, I wouldn't say that it's a trend, but it has to do with each individual one is different. When we look at these, we have to look, do they have a manager or superintendent attached to the township? And that's why you'll see the fluctuation. You'll see some of the supervisors who, they don't have either a township manager or a superintendent. They just have the council form of government without a manager. Then all of those responsibilities are landing, more on those township board officers. It really has to do with each individual one, like how are you guys prepared to work it? So with Delhi and Delta, they are doing what we did. They took and said, look, we don't have our treasurer that's managing all these investments and doing all those things. So they set their pay commensurate with what they believe the amount of time it takes. And I always like to say to boards, when you look at these positions, they're neither full-time or part-time, right? They just are. They're supervisor, they're clerk, they're treasurer, they're trustee. They're what you decide you want to do. There's no real job description. Nobody can compel you to work 40 hours even if we say, this is based on the idea of it's a full-time pay, and that person assumes office and they say, yeah, I'm going to come in every other Tuesday for an hour. Quite frankly, that's how they choose to work. That's between them and the folks who put them in office. So sometimes we get bogged down in that whole full-time versus part-time pay. It's really looking at based on the description and the amount of work that's required to complete your statutory responsibilities as an officer or your fiduciary responsibilities as a trustee. What is that really, what's fair? What's fair compensation? So yeah, we do look at those. We try to find comps, like what's the size of it? Are they a full size? Are they similar to our operation? And that's what, we've done. Has the job duties in the treasurer's department changed? Absolutely. Over the years, and a lot of that had to do with the investments. 9 years ago, the treasurer was also in charge of investing like the individual employees, retirement funds, and we changed all of that. So those duties were changed drastically, and should have been, quite frankly. It was for good reason. So that's really what comes down to, like, is it a trend? Not necessarily, but the more you see it, and kind of when you get into city governments where your charter, your own city charter, you see those positions are full-time. They're not board elected. They don't do treasurers and clerks as elected positions. Township governments are unique. We're unique for a reason, but so it's hard for me to say. It's really, if I could pull it up, I'd show you, but I just can't get my L drive right now to work. I don't know why.
The difficult thing, and I've had discussions with other townships, even in Genesee County, who are struggling with this. It's a difficult conversation that boards really don't want to talk about their own pay. But I can tell you that we've been using PFM for, 4 or 5 years now. I have had numerous other townships ask me, who do you guys use? And I've told them, and several of them took, and have ran with that, and they've been using them. And now they're saying, hey, we've got to make some adjustments here because all our investments are being done by, and so I think you will see more of those happen. I mean, we just happen to be on the front end because we're investing tons of millions of dollars, and to have somebody, elected and expected to be able to do that's a heck of a burden to put on a treasurer, right? I mean, it probably cause a few sleepless nights that you're wondering, hey, I'm responsible now overnight for knowing how to invest, 25 million or whatever it is. And so I think you will see that, but it's a difficult discussion to have, just like the discussion when it took place to take the township supervisor. I mentioned in 2003, the pay for the supervisor was probably like 59,000 or something like that, and take it down to 18,000. That was a tough discussion to have back then. And so this is, and again, we're removing anybody who's in because we don't know who's going to be elected next. I mean, I don't know me or anybody else. So we're purely talking about the positions themselves, and it's a difficult, discussion. That's probably why you see some people let's just keep it the same and avoid having to have that discussion. Same reason why the pay for this board stayed the same for 20 years, for trustees. So.
And I just building off, I do agree. I'm a little uncomfortable having the treasurer and the trustees so close together. I think regardless of what we end up with, they need to be spread out a little further. Because I also don't know what the trustees make in Delta and Delhi Township. Are they making $6,000 a year? And then it's a relatively large gap between the two positions where
I've got it here.
Here essentially, I mean, at least what we had here, I don't want to say glorified trustee, but essentially the treasurer would be a glorified trustee whose name is on the property tax bill.
So in Delhi, where the treasurer's making $25,894, trustees make $11,510. And these actually are smaller townships too, but the probably similar tax base though, right? Where the treasurer makes $18,500, the trustees make $13,000, so about a $5,000 difference. So, but we talked about $20,000 going to for the treasurer, which would give about we're looking at roughly $14,000 for trustees, be about a $6,000 difference. So would you be comfortable with that, Mr. White?
That's I guess as close as I wouldn't want it any closer in terms of the salaries. I think 6,000 is the edge, but I guess I don't know.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I would, personally, I'd like to see around 21, 22. I mean, that's.
What are you suggesting, Dr. Reardon?
Well, not that this calculator means anything. So they got 25.8, is that what they made?
25,894, and then the other one was 18,581. So what are you thinking, Mr. White?
I would just say, why don't we just average the two and take that, which would be 21 something, me doing math in my head without a calculator.
Just round it at 21 or 22?
I think the average is close to 22.
Okay.
But,
22.
Right.
I would be fine with that.
Any other thoughts or comments?
So is the proposal then to
It would be for
the supervisor, the clerk, and the trustees make their 2021 pay plus the 3% cost of living,
okay.
and the treasurer to get $22,000.
Plus the cost of living?
That's what I'm hearing. That has it built in.
I have one follow-up question. If the treasurer would no longer be designated as a full-time position, would that impact retirement and/or insurance for that position too?
Mr. Lehman, what did we discuss on that?
That's really, I mean, again, that's totally up to you guys. That's the board compensation. I didn't really pull the benefits on that to see what the other ones were doing, quite frankly. But it was sort of weird when we looked at, when we went back and tried to figure out when those were done way before, and we could never find the actual resolutions that said it. And
exactly.
There's a question about supervisor's health care. It had never been changed. They only changed the salary. So it's a very valid question. Does that change the healthcare portion of it? I mean, that's a board question. I mean, it's really you guys deciding on the compensation, whether you just automatically board officers qualify for this, or but you do have to put it into your compensation if you're making changes. You have to
right
put it
now
into the resolution.
So right now, the supervisor, clerk, and treasurer qualify for the health insurance. The clerk and the treasurer qualify for 15% towards retirement. So that's what we have right now. The supervisor does not get retirement. Dr. Reardon?
So if the treasurer thinks that you could feasibly do the job, 4 to 6 hours a week, then I would not be in favor of health care for the next treasurer. Am I off on that, or?
We're open for discussion on all of it, so.
I mean, what do you?
I'm not sure when it comes to benefits, who's entitled to what. I mean, you just say, okay, him is, she's not,
Right.
Well, the positions aren't full-time or part-time, so, except for the 3 officers anyways. So it's purely up to the board on those 3.
I guess I would say keep the healthcare, but get rid of the retirement. I mean, the pay would be comparable to what the supervisor was making before we raised the pay a couple of years ago. But that's me. I don't think that if we're gonna reduce it that much, then it should come with any retirement benefits. That's a pretty easy call, I think.
Healthcare, yes. No retirement for the treasurer's position. Is that what we're saying?
That's what Mr. White.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Are you concurring, Mr.
I'm
White?
concurring.
Clerk Robertson?
You want to put there?
I want to get a consensus here before I go for a vote.
Let me just say, as I mentioned before, I'm comfortable with keeping the salary for the clerk exactly where it is. I understand the argument with regard to COLA. If the consensus of the board is that we need to include a COLA for all the positions out of recognition of the existence of inflation, I'm okay with that. I just want to state for the record that my position remains unchanged from when we discussed this the last time. But I will, if the rest of the board believes that COLA should be included, I'm willing to go along with it.
In terms of the treasurer position, no. In terms of keeping the health care but getting rid of the retirement?
I think Trustee White's arguments are valid.
Mr. Kilmer? No, I'm just saying, is that okay with you, or any thoughts on it, or? I just want to get a consensus. I don't want to have, if we can, I mean.
right now I'd have to vote no.
Okay. Dr. Reardon?
I'm good
with Mr. White's proposal? Okay, so one more time, this would be basically keeping the 2021, well, let's go this route. The 2021 pay that we have on the chart here, plus 3%. The treasurer position would change to 22,000, and we would eliminate the 15% contribution. Other than that, everything would stay the same.
Yes. Okay. Is that a motion, Mr. Supervisor?
So what I'd like you to do, I want you to do exactly what you're doing now, because I have resolutions for each of these positions.
Okay.
We'll do each one separately.
Okay.
I also want you to amend your agenda to consider these resolutions, and there'll be resolutions 2024-5 2024-4, 2024-5, 2024-6. And I'm gonna write the amounts in.
Okay.
I'm gonna also say whether that position is eligible for the 15% retirement benefit and healthcare, just so we have a resolution that it's not gonna be the prettiest thing, but it's gonna have the information.
So I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add 5 resolutions regarding four resolutions regarding board compensation. Is there support? Support by Dr. Reardon.
Motion to amend the agenda. Amend agenda. Agenda. Motion by Supervisor Bennett.
Correct.
Motion by Bennett, supported by Fike? Or was it?
Dr. Reardon.
Dr. Reardon, excuse me. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm correct here. Okay. Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
No.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-1. Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Laddie, first resolution.
First resolution, 24-4, supervisor compensation. And currently, again, whatever compensation amount we include would take effect beginning November 20th, 2024. The current position for supervisor includes the opportunity to participate in healthcare plan, but does not include a retirement contribution. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what dollar amount?
That was $35,550, and then 3% COLA.
So.
Or actually, yeah, I guess that's.
I'm just gonna have to get the calculator out.
Let's calculate that up and I'll write it in.
$36,617
36.
or $36,616 and 50 cents if you want to be exact.
You can round it, I think.
Let's go 17.
Everybody complained about that. So one more time, David, on the salary for that?
Salary is $36,617 annually, beginning November 20th, 2024. The position shall continue to include the option to participate in healthcare plans, health, dental, and vision for the supervisor's spouse and eligible dependents. Does not receive 15% retirement contribution.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion? Dr. Reardon?
Motion by Reardon,
Supported by White.
supported by White on Resolution 24-4. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Mr. Laddie?
24-5 will be the township clerk's compensation. So that would be $59,972 plus 3%. If someone could give me that number, that'd be great.
$61,771.
Position does include health benefits. And 15% retirement contribution.
Okay, Mr. Fike makes the motion. Support by Mr. White.
Motion by Fike, supported by White. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Reardon.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
No.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-1, motion passes.
Okay.
Next resolution, 24-6, treasurer compensation. Compensation for the elected treasurer position shall be $22,000 annually, beginning November 20th, 2024, with no 15% retirement contribution. but position is eligible to participate in the healthcare plans.
This is 24.
Mr. Fike makes that motion,
24-6. Motion by Fike.
supported by
I'll make
by
the.
Mr. White.
Okay, Mr. White, all right. Supported by White. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
No.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-1, motion passes.
Okay. Mr. Laddie?
Finally, Resolution 24-7, trustee compensation, and that will be set at 13.7 plus 3%. Is that what I understand?
I think it's currently at 13,257, and the 3% brought it up to 13.7, if I'm not mistaken.
13,257 plus 3%?
Let me just double check unless somebody already has.
13,655.
Right, so 13,655 is roughly the 3%.
And I'm going to put the notation, no retirement, no health care in this too.
Right.
So
Is there a motion regarding this resolution? Dr. Reardon makes the motion. Thank you, Mr. Laddie.
Motion by Raritan, supported by Fike.
Correct.
Okay. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
No.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
5-1, motion passes.
Okay. Well, that's been a long discussion, and it's something that most boards have avoided. But, I think it's important that the next board, we've set things in motion for whoever occupies the board next. With that, we'll move on to new business. And the first item up is
Item B.
Item B, the board will consider Resolution 24-2 to set a public hearing for March 19th, 2024 to approve the Orchard Haven subdivision street paving special assessment.
So this is to consider the assessment role.
Okay. Questions or making the motion, Mr. White?
Motion by White.
Supported by Mr. Fike.
Supported by Fike. Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now the board will consider a motion to purchase bedroom furnishings for the renovated Baldwin Road Fire Station that replaces the previously ordered items. And we have Chief Burdette with us this evening. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? Unfortunately, the furniture that we originally ordered for the Baldwin Road Fire Station was a little too industrial for our taste. So it was a little too much metal and not enough of the wood. So we're asking, we've sent that all back. I'm asking to replace that with some furniture that Superintendent Lehman and I noticed out in Allendale Fire Station when we visited there. That's a completely wood furniture from Firehouse Furniture, and to purchase the mattresses for the beds from Scaff Furniture, because the guys have the mattresses here, they enjoy them, for $10,814. Now, the money would be used, originally it was using the ARPA funds to pay for the other furniture. That's been sent back, so we still have the money here. Use the ARPA funds to pay for this.
Okay. Any questions or concerns for Chief Burdette on the furniture? Or a motion that somebody would care to make? Mr. White makes the motion.
Motion by White.
I'll support it.
Supported by Bennett. Trustee Raritan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item D, the board will consider a motion to purchase, a motion for the purchase of 5 2024 Chevrolet Police Package four-wheel drive Tahoes for a total of $262,075 and allow the superintendent to execute all purchasing agreements. We have
Good evening.
Chief Rennie with this.
Good evening. So the police department is still feeling the effects of COVID-19 when we went several years without taking possession of any vehicles to implement into our fleet. And with that, it comes increased costs, wear and tear on the vehicle, maintenance costs, and most importantly, extra burden on our mechanical staff or our mechanics, as time is money. They don't have the time to, do our new builds and stuff like that in other areas in the township that require their attention. So because they're consistently working on our police vehicles. So this is for 5 brand new 2024 Chevrolet police equipped Tahoes. This does not include lights and ancillary equipment, just so everybody is aware. We do have this budgeted, 4 of them for a capital projects 2024. The extra one is from a vehicle that was taken out of service recently due to a crash, which we are being compensated by the insurance company as well to cover some of those costs.
So Chief Rennie, in talking with our mechanic staff and the DPW, these trucks are very highly sought after and very difficult to obtain. They told me of a situation of another entity in the state that was requesting 200 of these, and they were told they're going to get 20 of them. I want to commend our mechanics for making phone calls to people within GM headquarters to urge them to allow us to get these vehicles. The dealership that we get them through a state program said, good luck. And so, actually, I commend our staff that works for Mr. Limita that they did a phenomenal job securing these 5, but we're not going to get them overnight. They're going to take a while to build, I believe. So we're very fortunate to be able to get these, and we may not be able to get them in the future if we wait. So
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, any thoughts, concerns? Anybody
Is
want to care
a
to make that
motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
It is.
On item 8D,
Joel, Mr. Fike makes that motion.
Mr.
Supported
Fike,
supported by Dr. Reardon.
motion by Fike, supported by Raridan. Trustee Fike?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Raridan?
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Item E, the board will consider Resolution 24-3 to update the township fee schedule to support the fiscal year 2024 budgets. Who do we have, Mr. Lehman?
So in a evening filled with tough conversations, we thought we'd keep that theme going.
Well, thank you. We may need a break here in a few minutes, I think, for a stretch
This
here.
really, there's a couple things that we want to do this evening, and what you're being asked to do is take a look at the fee schedule with some revisions in it. When you pass the budget, we always have you also pass the fee schedule. During that time, when our new DPS director, Al Cooley, came on board, and we, as you guys know, we use a rate model that has us go through our water and sewer funds to make sure that we are prepared to be able to handle the operations and maintenance as well as the future capital equipment and purchase needs. And one of the reasons that we have to stay on top of that, and I always say I'm very proud of our DPW and our enterprise funds are very healthy. We have a good fund balance, but we always knew that we had a lot of projects coming up. All of those projects are kind of landing on us in a, kind of right now. And we're building a new DPW building that is sorely needed. We've got a $15 million commitment to the Kearsley Creek Interceptor Sewer Project, which is sorely needed so that we can, build out our capacity so we can continue to add taxable value, which results in general fund revenue. The rate model that we use was created by a company called Raftalis. We engaged them back in 2019, took about through 2020, had some issues with the pandemic before we finally got it through. Our former DPS director, Jeff Sears, had been working with the Raftalis rate model, but kind of working through it as a one-man band. With the addition of our new DPS director, Al, coming on board, we really wanted to take the DPW budget, much like we do all of our general fund and special revenue funds budgets, and that's use that team approach, put a group of our experts together, and then go through this thing and make sure we understand it. These rate models are complicated. It's a big spreadsheet with a lot of moving parts, but one of the things you have to do is you've got to really do a good job of taking a look at your capital improvement planning, and so that your capital projects plan is together and you're looking out for the next 20 years really on foreseeable big expenditures, and we did that, and we really got those incorporated in. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to meet our Assistant Finance Director, Chantel, who is sitting right here. She has been an incredible addition to our team. So between Finance Director Kathy Sostak, who would be here this evening as well, but she had a family emergency and was unable to attend. But this is our team between Kathy, Chantel, Mr. Boggs, Al, myself, and we brought in Raftalis for a day, and we really poured through this stuff to make sure we understand it and we're getting it right. While we've had this model for the last 3 years, I would say that former DPS Director Sears, because of the complexity of this thing, maybe wasn't have it built out to its full value. Well, I can assure you, after 2 months of pouring through this thing, we are there. And the good news is that we look at our trajectory. We have a healthy cash flow, but we need to keep it there. I go a long way to say that fee schedule that you're being asked to consider tonight includes an increase in water and sewer fees. We have the DPS Director, Al Cooley, here. We also have our Assistant Director, Greg Boggs, here, and Chantel, who would be happy to kind of walk you through the wheres and whys and what we're doing and what that increase would mean to our residents and to our ratepayers. I know it's important because it's an election year, and it's one of those things that we talk about increasing fees. That can be a touchy subject, especially in an election year. However, we've always stood by the fact that we're going to have a system that is ready to meet the demand as it comes. There's a reason we were able to get Enterprise Park and build it and get hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in here. It's because we were prepared to meet the future. It's a reason we can look at Tech Village. It's a reason we have that build out on South Holly, is because we've done these things. It's a reason that we make sure that we're videoing our sewers and every 5 years and using liners and doing everything to extend it, is so that we really are financially capable and ready. Because that really does affect our bottom line. That investment equates to general fund revenue, and that's what keeps us from having to raise taxes. With that, I know this is a consideration. I wanted them to have the opportunity to walk you through it. And with that, Al?
Good evening. Just a few points. As Superintendent Dennis had said, when I came in, really wanted to get a good idea of this rate model, understand it myself, really dig deep into what the O&M costs are, what the capital improvement plan is, all those different things. As the superintendent said, it was the first time that we really sat down as a group and did this. It really brought it together, brought a lot of minds together, a lot of ideas together. We really manipulated this rate model as best we could to just give us the best idea of where we need to be going forward. We did a complete look. It was an O&M, our typical day-to-day O&M maintenance stuff, and then also what we want to do for the capital improvement stuff for the future. And the capital improvement stuff that we're looking at fits within the master plan and the board's strategic plan on how we want to move the township forward. These capital improvement plans are needed so that we can keep up with the growth that is happening within the township, which benefits the tax base of the township and the residents. These rates that we're looking at, making the adjustments to are going to cost approximately $5 a month for the average family of four, when it's all said and done, and that's a cumulative of both water and sewer together. Everybody has dealt with the inflation that's happened over the last several years, and we're no different than that. The cost of employees, equipment, materials, contractors, it's all went up, and we have to, as the superintendent said, we have to keep our funds in line so that we can keep a good, healthy system. We have several capital improvement items planned, and I'm going to let Mr. Boggs speak on some of those that we got that's what's for this year in 2024.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, we have the new DPW facility that, fits into your strategic master plan here. That's essential. It's essential for township operations. It's essential for our operations as a growing department with all the infrastructure, with all the growth and development. We have several, meter pit projects, water main replacements. We also have the phase 2 of the Fenton Road sewer that you guys approved the design on, which will be going out to bid here hopefully in February. We also we have capacity issues over on off of Holly Road, so we'll be bringing a design proposal here for upgrading that sewer in 25, equipment, and our normal sewer rehab that we normally do. But doing these things allows us to be solvent and forward-thinking as a township, so we don't have infrastructure issues. We don't have, we can't be development ready. We slow this down. We slow growth down Grand Lake Township, so, we, like I said, what Al said, we dove into this. We feel this is necessary, and we definitely think this fits into the board's vision.
I have seen communities that have, delayed doing this for years, and the problem is that the infrastructure doesn't wait around for, money. And the other thing that happens is that, it doesn't get any cheaper. It actually gets more expensive, and things decline. I mean, we've seen sinkholes in Macomb County the size of Swallow homes because a system wasn't maintained. We've seen up in Marquette where water rates, I think doubled or tripled because the elected officials kept putting it off for years. It's much easier to take these, this medicine in small doses than to end up with a 50% or 100% increase. And, we don't see the infrastructure. Most people, don't. And so we figure it's, it maintains itself, but that's a fallacy. That infrastructure under the ground is probably taking more wear and tear than some of it above ground. And those pipes, whether it's sewer lines or water lines, we don't have to travel too far in our township or our county to find communities that have had major disasters with water and sewer. One of the things that I think people don't know about Grand Blanc Township is that, 75 years ago, the people that sat in these seats made some awesome decisions to put sewer lines in areas of our township that people would question, why would we put sewer over there? But the amount of septic tanks we have here, I think, is pretty far and few between compared to what we have as far as on our sewer line, which means a lot to development and to homeowners, what have you. Unfortunately, there is a cost to maintaining that. And as you mentioned, by us also being ready for development, it helps our tax base, which lowers the cost on residents having to pay for this, development. So, or for maintaining what we have currently as far as everything under the sun. But I know it's, not the best scenario. We'd love to be reducing costs, but unfortunately, given this day and age, everything is going up substantially in terms of cost to repair any of this infrastructure. Any thoughts from any board members? Mr. Fike?
I do. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, $5 a month. But for some, if you're on a fixed income, if you're really low income, that might be one more thing, that they're going to pay. Do we have any kind of low-income assistance for people regarding their water bills?
I know we suggest when you have a plumbing issue and the absorbent amount of water has been used, we suggest Catholic Charities or the United Way or something like that. If they're looking for some kind of
Right.
assistance in that aspect.
Okay.
When there's an unforeseeable issue at their home and there's an absorbent amount of water that was used and wasn't planned.
Well, we have discussed at this board some possible legislation that could be coming down the way that would add $2 to $3 a month to everybody's bill for
That.
basically a state fund to not only help municipalities that have gone under with their water, but also individuals.
Which
Need
we're
assistance.
not wild about.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody would be opposed to helping those in need. But as far as bailing out communities that maybe have mismanaged their water fund, I don't think anybody is in favor of throwing good money after bad, but unless something's been fixed. But Dr. Reardon?
So, if somebody could explain, so, and the table 2, monthly bill impacts, the first two, the 5/8 with 3 CCF per month, is that users?
No, that's 300 cubic feet.
And then the one with
5/8?
feet, they both go up at the same rate, roughly. I mean, one is, what, $3? I don't know.
You're looking at table 2, Dr.
Yeah,
Reardon?
I'm looking at table 2, and would a single family, which one of these would a single family use?
So I would say a family of 4, we basically, it's 500 cubic feet a month. That's usage. So 500 cubic feet equates to 3,740 gallons a month.
That's on table 2?
That's on table 2. I'm trying to see the difference.
At the
There's-
bottom there of table 2, it's showing the
366 versus 466?
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the monthly difference. Yeah.
Okay.
For an average user.
Is that, I'm just thinking that seems,
Mr. White?
Just doing a little math here. It looks like the water charges themselves are 7%-ish increases, but the sewer is 4%. Is there, I mean, we were just talking about sewer, but is there a reason water is going up quite a bit more than sewer? Or I guess you could look at it the other way.
It is. I mean, actually, I think the sewer, I think, was closer to 9%, wasn't it, on overall, but.
I just ran a couple.
Yep. So you're right, 7% on water, 9% on sewer. And that's basically right out of the rate model. We do it built on what's coming up for water, all the capital. We do a rate model on water, we do one on sewer, and then we start looking at the increases, what we have to do. And really what we're trying to maintain is we've got a 90-day reserve at all times that we have to have for both water and sewer. And we even messed with that number. You know, what is that, 120? We don't want to go less than 90. But those increases, 7 and 9%, are what the rate model came back and showed us.
Dr. Reardon?
so are we charging more I thought water was a pass-through for us. I mean, isn't that normally what it has been? I mean, so now I just know people that, I know the $5, but the $5 is going to mean something. And so I just want to make sure we're.
The pass-through from the county?
Right, right. So we're not making money on the water, or are we now?
No, the water and sewer, we don't make money on it. It's not a profit center for us. I mean, the whole thing is always cost recovery. And so when we're setting these, we have to look at three things. Number one, where are we at on capital fees, right? So you get charged capital fees, how many RUs do you need for your business or your home? And you pay that $2,600 for a home to have capital fees for water, $2,600 for sewer. That's your buy-in into the system. We haven't adjusted those numbers in many, many years. You look at the ready-to-serve charge, so these meter charges, you look 5/8, 1 inch, whatever, those are your fixed charge. You're trying to capture your fixed costs for us to have employees, trucks. I mean, we own and operate all of our own water mains and our sewer, right? We are the biggest wholesale customer of the county and operate our own systems. But so those ready to serve charge, when you every 5 years we hire a rate consultant, they come in and they help us try to make sure we're not out of whack anywhere on our ready to serve, but we also have to be cognizant of our fixed charge. If you really put it all on fixed charge, your fixed charge would be a lot higher. But then you also have your commodity charge. And so you look at that and you set your commodity charge rate to try to make sure that you're not hurting or punishing anybody. If you talk to the big industrial users with a 6-inch meter who say, hey, take it easy on the ready to serve on those fixed charges, put it all in commodity charges, they don't use a lot of water, quite frankly. They need it for fire flow, a lot of them, right? So they've got much bigger meters in there to handle fire flow because they're a bigger enterprise, big retail, big box store, think. They need fire flow. They have to have a bigger meter. They don't use a lot of water. So they're like, just put it in all in commodity charges, great, because it doesn't cost me anything. I hardly use any water. I got a couple employee bathrooms, that's it. So we have to really do a balance of, are we covered enough on the fixed charge? And then what are we doing about the commodity? You can see here our recommendation is to go on the water commodity to go from $7.33 to $7.55. It's a 22-cent increase per 100 cubic feet. What we tried to do is balance it so that we're taking care of our water to make sure that we have the right amount of cash reserve balance, and we can do the projects we need to do for water, like maintain the water towers, paint water towers, do clean water towers, that kind of thing. All those things get factored in, so it's not just a strictly pass-through. We have to make enough money to do the operations and maintenance. And one of the reasons that's so important for us as a municipality is, in order to qualify, there's a big push on asset management. The reason being is the feds or the state would make low-cost funds available, right? And say, hey, we've got SRF or DWRF funds available. And people would say, heck yeah, give me some, and I'm going to do something with my projects. But if you weren't bringing enough money to balance your system, to pay for the ongoing operations, maintenance, replacement, and expansion, then why do they want to give you low interest money? So if now with the asset management that's in place, if you can't show that you can operate your system, you don't qualify for the low interest funds. So there's a huge push on that asset management, which forces us to take a better look about our capital projects. So even these, when you look at them and you say, man, I don't like increases, can we delay this increase? Absolutely. You can watch municipalities who have done it all across the nation. Certainly in the state of Michigan, we can provide you with a ton of examples where they say, man, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to do this. Is there any capital projects that you can push down the road? The answer is always yes. We can look at it and push them down the road. But what's the consequences of pushing them down the road, right? And so what we try to do is balance those consequences. If, like with our sewer capacity, for example, he mentioned Holly Road. We know that where Holly Road is now, we got a question just putting in a new car dealership. Was there enough sewer capacity to put in a car dealership? Not a big water user, but we've also got a sewer system that needs to be upgraded. It's not just Grand Blanc Township sewer system, it's multi-communal. It's the city of Grand Blanc, Genesee County Water, Waste, and Grand Blanc Township are all responsible for sizing that capacity appropriately. So when we put these projects in place, can we delay them? I will say, yes, we can, but there's consequences. It means the next person that comes in that available property over by the theater, and they say, hey, I'm here and I want to put in a 200-seat restaurant that you guys have been begging for, we say, well, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait a few years because we're going to have to do this project. So we're always trying to stay just in time. Is our capacity there? What do we need to do? And that's a big balance. So when you look at these rates, it's not just the commodity charge, it is that ready-to-serve fixed charge, but it is about always looking towards the future. We look at this every single year. This year, we really dove in, like what projects, what did Jeff not have in there that maybe we should be considering? What do we know now this year that we didn't know a year ago when we built the rate model out? There's a lot that goes into it. If we showed you the spreadsheet, and again, that's why I said thank God for Chantel, because her previous experience, she loves spreadsheets, man. She's a whiz at this. And this thing's got about 12 tabs on it, and you're going back and forth and making all these different variables. So the assumptions, much like doing a actuarial on how much do we owe on liabilities, right, on our unfunded liabilities, we can change the assumptions, but we need to make them as factual as possible. Our recommendation comes down that if we want to continue to maintain where we're at, this is what we need to look at. So our ask to the board is, do you still support that? Or if you're really uncomfortable with it, then let us know. You let us know that you want to delay projects. Let us know that you'd rather push maybe some of those capital projects down the road a little ways to slow it down, but no, eventually we're going to have to do it. The cost is probably going to be higher, and we'll see bigger increases in the future. And that's what I think Supervisor Bennett was referring to. I can show you a great example where they came back and Raftalis actually did their rate study and said, you need to raise 25% every year for the next 4 years, and then you can slow down and maybe only do like 10 or 15% for the 6 years after that. You hate to get hit with something like that because those increases will scare the bejesus out of fixed income or people who can't afford it. So we try to maintain and do smaller increases. But again, with inflation, with everything that hit us, I mean, just the cost of pipe, Dr. Raridan, this year, like our construction projects have exploded. And so it did change. Our assumptions changed because the cost of our raw materials changed with those inflationary factors.
Any other board members have any thoughts?
Do we expect, projecting next year, I mean, not 2024, but for 2025, do you expect the same type of increase?
Well, it's a live model, so we'll work through that model as the year goes on, and depending on how our capital improvement projects lay out, how our actual numbers lay out on the bid projects, on the actual construction projects, we'll know that later on this year. But there is a chance there may be an increase, maybe not as large, but a smaller increase.
I told the new guy this wasn't going to be popular.
Well, there's just, some people, and I know it's Grand Blanc, but some people, that $5 or $6 is going to mean something per month.
Yes, agreed.
And that's an estimate on our part. So if it's somebody on a fixed income and there's 1 or 2 people living in the house, that increase may be even lower because they won't be using as much water.
So the 500 cubic feet, that's 1,500 cubic feet a quarter. I mean, I have a house of 7, so I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm going to feel it, and I support it because this is my community.
Okay, any thoughts? Any other board members on it? Unfortunately, maintaining these systems, as we said, has a cost. We have one of the best systems, not only in our county, but I think in the state. To keep it at that level of performance, it's just like your car or anything else. It has to be maintained, and unfortunately, the cost of maintaining everything, the cost of putting a roof on your house doubled this past year. So if you were in need of, or in the last year and a half, so if you were in need of a roof, and you don't have the money for that, there's lots of things that are going up in cost, and unfortunately, there's no way for us to, as Mr. Lehman has said, we could delay, but we also could be getting phone calls, that, hey, why is my basement flooded or what have you down the road, and our whole goal is to keep that from happening and to do it in incremental ways rather than waiting till a disaster strikes and then having to have some kind of special assessment or something along those lines. It isn't popular, and it is, not the most tasteful thing we do here, but we got to look out for the future of our township, and sometimes that doesn't mean being able to delay things. So, what's the board's pleasure? I know that's the wrong word to use, but what's the board's thoughts?
We have the resolution in front of us, Mr.
Right.
Supervisor.
The
24.
resolution is 24-3 to update the township fee schedule to support the fiscal year 2024 budgets. And before you is that proposed fee schedule. Dr. Reardon?
Well, I'll make a motion.
You want $5.
I know, I already pay that.
You'll make the motion, Dr. Reardon?
Just because I'd hate to see it,
Does it have to stop development, or?
well, that or if we are in a bind, I'd hate to have somebody go up 25% for being forced to.
Right.
Even though I'm not really entirely happy about it.
Okay. Dr. Reardon's made the motion. Is there support?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kilmer makes
Motion
supports.
by Raridan
Support by Mr. Kilmer.
and support by Mr. Kilmer on item 8E.
Correct.
Trustee White,
Yes.
Trustee Raridan,
Yes.
Trustee Fike,
Yes.
myself, yes. Treasurer Kilmer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett,
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And I probably should have mentioned too, is that in one way, with the DDA that we have, a very successful DDA on the south end, don't forget, $1.5 million water and sewer expansion went into Enterprise Park, but that's being paid by the DDA. The over $5 million water and sewer expansion to open up the Technology Village area, being paid for by the DDA, so the ratepayers won't be impacted by that. So there is some, that's a considerable investment by our DDA that would have otherwise landed on ratepayers if we tried to expand our system to accommodate the growth. And, we are doing what we can to hold these down. We know it's never easy to make the decision that you made, so we thank you for that.
Well, one thing, the impact that the DDA's projects in Tech Village and the Enterprise Park is positive for the residents, because the economy of scale that we gain by having more users on the system actually does benefit all of our water and sewer users. We're grateful that our DDA does have these projects and are paying the cost for the infrastructure, but the actual usage fees and the maintenance of it actually benefit all residents, because the more people we have on a system, obviously, the lower the cost is to maintain it for everybody. So, thank you. It is a tough thing to do, but I believe we're doing the right thing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Item 8F.
Item 8F, the board will consider a motion to change the regularly scheduled meeting date from Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 to Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. We're doing that because we have some early voting that we're trying to work around, and that's going to be taking place in this room. Anything else to mention, Ms. Roberts?
Actually, an election day, so we will be using this room.
Okay.
But also, that's National Night Out over at the police department.
Oh, okay.
Whereas usually, we would go if we can't use this room. So that's not really an option. There's not going to be any parking over there at all, and it's just not a good time for it. So if we switch to Wednesday, then we can use the community room over at the police department, or possibly the board room.
Okay.
I'll make the motion on this item if you wish, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay. Supported by Mr. Fike?
Supported by Fike. Okay, Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
What are we voting on?
Changing
Item
the meeting date
8F.
from August 6th to August 7th.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
6-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Future agenda items, I think we discussed that we're putting together a schedule of those topics from our strategic plan to bring them up. Anything else, Mr. Lima didn't mention on that?
No, I think if there's something that specific that the board wants to see or a direction on the strategic plan, let us know, but we'll go ahead and Executive Coordinator Melissa Roberts will publish another schedule of what we intend to cover through 2024.
I don't know, I get the feeling that it's a consensus of this board that we'd like to move forward on doing something with somebody to assist in the treasurer's office to learn that position. Am I incorrect on that assumption, or?
Full speed ahead.
So
Create the job description, bring that to the board, and that would require a budget amendment to include the position, and then we can start to recruit.
Okay. Any board reports from any of our board members? Okay. I'm going to limit my comments to just say basically that with regard to 911, I was elected today to be the vice chair for that. So we already mentioned that it's National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and we swore in a new police officer yesterday. And they started on the job, and we're doing a great job, I think, with recruiting both in police and fire. So great job, you guys. With that, Mr. Laddie, anything to report on?
Just quickly, first of all, we are going to need a closed session to consider an employee contract, so keep that in mind. And then, some good news, I want Superintendent Lima to confirm that the Parkwood Mobile Home is current on their water bill and their taxes.
I am tickled pink to report that Parkwood Mobile Home Park is 100% paid in full on all utilities and taxes owed.
That would happen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, if I may, Mr.
Clerk
Supervisor.
Robertson?
Kudos to the staff, to Attorney Laddie for employing this strategy, this approach to the delinquent obligation, because it worked. And you know, that's I'm sure that the residents of the community affected will be very happy to know that obligation has been paid and is kept current.
It is good news. And then we had one lingering issue with potentially some code enforcement out there, but our code enforcement department's on it. We've got another court date, I think, coming up in a week, but if code enforcement says that they've got that situation under control, then I'll probably dismiss the case. So we should be good.
Yeah. And you know what, I commend our code enforcement as well as Mr. Limata. We've had some code enforcement where people are not happy, but you know, we can't have people building buildings without the proper permits, and we find out about the building's been built, and so it's for everybody's benefit that we have codes that we adhere to.
Yeah, and most of the time, those go relatively smoothly, but sometimes you get you hit a real combative situation, and sadly, some of our staff and executives feel the brunt of that sometimes.
Right.
But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Laddie. Mr. Limata?
I've got nothing to add at this point, other than if you guys would consider going into that closed session, that would be.
I don't have the legal language, but I'll make the motion that the board go into executive session to discuss an employee contract.
Okay,
For support?
Motion by Bennett.
Yep.
Motion by Bennett.
Support by Raridan.
Supported by Raridan. And record roll call.
Yes.
Trustee Raridan. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Fike.
Yes.
Treasurer Kilmer.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
6-0. We go into closed session at 8:54 p.m., where we adjourn from this session, go into the closed
Let's
session.
have the board.
Not adjourn,
Let's
stand
have the
at ease.
board stay right here, and we'll just wait for everybody else to vacate the room. We'll take about a 3-minute break if anybody needs to stretch.